Welcome to PIR. It's approximately 10 minutes past 9, so I'm a little late on the 3rd of the 1st, 2016, seemingly. First thing I want to say to you all is, well, one, Happy New Year, and welcome back. Word has been spreading about what we're doing here at People's Internet Radio. In fact, all of us, not just me, far from it, not just me, all the different hosts that have been operating on People's Internet Radio. And again, for 2016, I'd like to reiterate that when I'm on, I can be held to account for what I say, as when the guys from Open Your Mind or, their guests or any of the other hosts on any of the other days during the week, whether it's Mark Windows, whether it's, Pat from Scotland is Free, Sean McGuire, any of them, Dr. Ruck, we all accept that if I say something, then it's me you need to bring it to. If you have an issue with what I said, it should be me you should bring it to, and it should be me you apply it to. Don't be applying something I said to the whole of People's Internet Radio. That clearly can't work, right? We don't operate that way. When the different guys come on, nobody controls what we do or do not say on here. Everybody is free to say what they feel they need to say. There's just no other way of operating an open internet radio platform like this. There's no way of doing it. And, I'd like you to bear that in mind all through the year, that I'm not responsible for what anybody else has to say on here. I'm only responsible for what I say and my opinions. And I generally, in fact, regularly, if I'm giving you my opinion, I will say, now, the following is my opinion. This is my opinion on something. And that's just my opinion, just like everyone else's opinion. We all have one. If I'm going to present you something that I say, well, it's factual, in other words, well, it's written down in a little blue book, like a constitution or Chalmers and Asquith or modern legal usage or something like that, or a book on contract law, 99% of the time I will tell you what book it is, where it was written, what page, what paragraph, etc. If I don't say it on the air, if you want to email me, admin@peoplesinternetradio.com, of course, we'd be happy to say, oh yeah, if you give me the timestamp from, say, well, Vin, in your podcast, at so many minutes in, so many hours, so many minutes, so many seconds in, you said the following. Can you give me your reference for that, please? I'd be more than happy to do so. But I will say this, as long as you're polite. We do get people sometimes, they get a bit uppity. I understand people can get upset about things, but I'm going to say something. If you're getting upset about something, folks, you're actually upsetting yourself. I'm not upsetting you. If I say something and you get upset, you're upsetting yourself. It's not me that's upsetting you. You have to recognize and acknowledge your own feelings and emotions. I recognize that. If something happens or somebody says something and I get upset, the key is in the phrase, I get upset. In other words, I'm choosing to get upset. That would be me choosing it. In other words, it's not your fault. So it's not my fault if you hear something on here, or if I say something on here and you get upset. That's not my fault. So either it's correct or it's incorrect. If it's incorrect, by all means, we're open to correction. And if you're, if you're a nice person, if you're a decent bloke or a nice woman, and you actually are willing to correct what we say, and you can back it up with evidence, facts, etc., we're more than happy to take that on board. We always have been. We always have been. It's pointless not to do it that way. It's absolutely pointless. I think this is important to say, and I'll tell you why. Especially with when Billy comes on. I'll be calling Billy now shortly. And Billy and what he says about sovereignty, about the sovereign Republic of Ireland, and all of that. Billy is presenting his view, and he maintains absolutely that he can back it up with logic and reason and names and dates and times and who said what and when it happened, and it will be historically accurate. That's what Billy says. Now, we have had Billy McGuire on here for countless interviews down through the years. And some people have been, upset maybe with some of the information that Billy has presented or some of the suggestions he's made, etc. Now, I would say to all of you guys, where have you tried to interview Billy McGuire, or where have you tried to call him to, ask him to come on and do an interview with you? He has been more than willing to do so ever since I met him 6 years ago or so, whenever it was, I'm not exactly sure, but it's about that. Since I interviewed him first and I met him then, I think it was a year or so later. But he will do it. I mean, if you are running an internet radio, if you have a website and you have questions about this, by all means, phone Billy McGuire, record a conversation if you want. He doesn't have a problem with that. Record a conversation and talk to the man. There have been people who have reacted badly, if you will, in the past. And I would say, well, and they've gotten on to me as if somehow it's my fault. Well, it's not my fault, folks. Billy McGuire says what Billy McGuire says. And if he says it, you know, again, talk to him. He's more than willing to talk to him. I have given out Billy's home phone number on here numerous occasions. On numerous occasions. I don't know, some people did take him up and I suppose others didn't. But the people who like to complain and post things on the internet, etc., and to challenge things, they're very reticent to do so. And I often wonder, why is that? You know, they'll post negative things or they'll say negative things about Billy McGuire, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, or what was going on. But they will never, or so far, they don't seem to want to actually have an actual open conversation with Billy about the issues. I'll give you for example. If you go to Wikipedia and you type in Irish Republican Brotherhood, in fact, I'm going to do it right now. I'll do that right now just to show you. If you just Google Irish, and he spells it wrong, I-R-I, Irish Republican Brotherhood, and you go to the Wikipedia link, and I'll give you the link here. I'll just drop it into the chat box for you, seeing as I'm in the chat box. And I'm putting this here for a very good reason. So if you look at that, you'll see, for example, if you scroll down to the bottom, in fact, right at the very top, it has, where is it now? Basically, it's saying Irish Republican Brotherhood. Let's see. Well, in fact, okay, what they do here is they've mixed accurate information, if you will, with inaccurate information. Now, the important thing about Wikipedia, folks, is anybody can join Wikipedia and anybody can make an entry. Now, I did join Wikipedia, as did many others, and we tried to correct the record, as it were, on this entry. And so far, everybody who's tried to make a correction has had their a correct correction, and to change some of the untrue, which we believe to be absolutely untrue, they have been reverted back again. Somebody else has changed them back. This happens regularly. However, I'm going to read this. The Irish Republican Brotherhood was a secret, oath-bound, fraternal organisation. Now, that phraseology, secret, oath-bound, fraternal organisation, I don't think that's a very accurate description. It was certainly secret from the Crown, but it wasn't secret to the Irish people. It wasn't secret to us. It was private, if you will, but it wasn't secret in that sense. Dedicated to the establishment of an independent democratic republic. Actually, it was an independent sovereign democratic republic. That's what's written in the proclamation 3 times. Sovereign, sovereignty, sovereign, right? It's in there 3 times. In Ireland, between 1858 and 1924. Now, you see, they stop at 1924. And here's why. Whereas Billy McGuire would tell you there was no stoppage in 1924. Its counterpart in the United States of America was organised by John O'Mahony, that's correct, and became known as the Fenian Brotherhood, later Clan na Gael. Members of both its wings of the movement are often referred to as Fenians. The IRB played an important role in the history of Ireland as the chief advocate of republicanism during the campaign for Ireland's independence from the United Kingdom. It wasn't quite from the United Kingdom, it was from the Crown. The Crown. That's not, the United Kingdom didn't exist in that form as far as I'm aware back then. Maybe it did. No, I don't think it did. Anyway. Successor to movements such as the United Irishmen and the Young Islanders, etc. As part of the new departure of the 1870s to 1880s, IRB members attempted to democratise the Home Rule League and its successors, the Irish Parliamentary Party, as well as taking part in the Land War. Again, some of that may be open to opinion from others, I don't know. The IRB staged the Easter Rising in 1916. A lot of people don't seem to realise that. A lot of people seem to think it was somebody else who staged the Easter Rising. But again, I would say, look at the proclamation. It's written right there on the proclamation. Which led to the establishment of the first, not the first, of Dáil Éireann 1919. The Dáil Éireann courts, the 4 courts, the Sovereign Republic of Éire. The suppression of Dáil Éireann precipitated the Irish War of Independence. Now, when they say the suppression of Dáil Éireann, to be accurate, they should have put the suppression of Dáil Éireann by the Crown and the Crown forces. Okay, a foreign ruler. Okay, who were usurping our natural and inalienable right to rule ourselves. They were foisting it upon us, essentially, we the people at the time. Okay. Now, I think it's very important also to recognise and to realise that the men and women of 1916 who died and who were executed, in fact, they were executed, and the charge was treason to the Crown. That's why they were executed. And I'd like to put a call out in the spirit of unity and friendship and with regard to the peace process and peace and reconciliation between all peoples, that I would like to see, would the Crown be willing to remove that charge of treason, because we are entering 2016, a very poignant and significant time in history for Irish people, and yet that still hangs over our heads historically, if you will. That the leaders, these men were essentially the sovereign government established by the will of we the people from the 32 county election of 1918. This was the sovereign government that was executed, and they were executed for treason to the Crown. They weren't executed as, they weren't executed for any other reason other than they claimed it was treason against the Crown. I think that should be undone, removed, obliterated, ablated, call it what you will. I think that should be undone. And as I say, in the interest of peace and reconciliation, because that is important, I think we have to learn to talk. The only way we can ever resolve any issue, if you and I have an issue, the only way we can ever get resolution is we meet and we talk it out. If you hate me and I hate you and you can't stand me and I can't stand you, sooner or later, the only way we will ever come to peace is if we meet and talk. And I must take on board your side and you must take on board my side. It's the only way forward. It's the only logical, sensible, reasonable way forward. If one side or the other refuses to do so, you end up with war. And I think only an insane man or woman would go to war, because all you're doing is committing other people's children to die horribly on a battlefield somewhere. Maimed, death, destruction. And it's no way for humanity to continue. If humanity itself is to continue, and if we are to move forward, I think this is the only way to do it. So I think that would be a really good thing to happen this year. If I haven't even thought it through properly, maybe for the correct language for this, but somehow that needs to be removed. I don't know who agrees or disagrees with that sentiment on the chat box, but I think that's right. I think that's the right thing to do. They should no longer, if you will, be held in that limbo, as it were. So, I mean, I know there's talk of Prince Charles. There was talk out there of maybe Prince Charles will be coming over to Ireland for 2016. Well, if Prince Charles comes, I think that would be, he would be welcomed if that was the news he was bringing, I think. I think everybody would welcome him as a guest in our country, on our land. Not to come here as the son of the ruling crown, but to come here as a guest. I mean, after all, he's sovereign too. We are the ones, in fact, who recognise Prince Charles as a sovereign. We are the ones who recognise every man and woman on this land, and I mean the earth, as sovereign. In fact, it's only the Crown who doesn't recognise everybody else's sovereignty, believe it or not. The Crown structure, the British Empire, folks, it never went away. They just changed the name of different parts of it. So they operate as different, it's like different departments of one big company, yeah, the East Indian Company, the Virginia Company, etc., etc. And that became, well, America, Australia, India, so forth and so on. That's how they did it. The British Empire never went anywhere. It's still in place. But only for the elites of that structure. I mean, even the people, the English people, they're being oppressed as much as anybody else. The reason they're being oppressed is because they're considered subjects. Subjects is just another word for slave. And I think it's time that if the crown and the wearer of the crown and that whole crown structure, if they want to actually have their subjects, you see, how can the subject accept that you are the sovereign? How can the subject accept your sovereignty? Actually, they can't. If they themselves are not considered sovereign, how can a non-sovereign entity grant unto you, a sovereign entity, that recognition? They can't. The only people who can recognize and acknowledge the sovereignty of another are indeed sovereign people, other sovereign people. This is nothing to do with sovereign citizens or any of that stuff, right? This is just the idea of sovereignty as a uniqueness. You are a unique, singular entity, okay? There's only one of you. There's only one of me in here. There's only one of you in there, okay? We are all unique. Even identical twins are unique, folks. Triplets, quadruplets, they're all unique. They look the same, but they're not the same. We recognize that. Any sane man or woman on the planet recognizes that. And anybody who cannot recognize that, I would suggest they are either insane or they are lying to themselves. And if they are doing so, and if they are lying to themselves, and if they are therefore lying to others if they maintain that position, I would suggest they need to take some lessons in logic and truthfulness. Now, what's happening on January 21st? Many people have been asking about this. I too have been asking about this because I was unsure what was going on, what was happening, etc. I saw a very nice poster that was designed. It's on somebody's Facebook page. I'd have to dig it up there to find it for you again. I will in a moment. So what's and I'll have Billy on in a moment. So what's organised or being arranged, or hopefully what's being arranged, is, and I think a lot of people who've been dedicated have been working very hard in the background for this to come about, is the Lord Mayor for Dublin this year. God, I don't have her name off the top of my head. Very apologies, I'll dig it out. But she was a Sinn Féin Lord Mayor anyway. And there's another chap called Bartle Darcy, seemingly, who's been working in the background, trying to see if somehow or other, with some lines of communication open, if somehow this situation that has been happening down through the years, which clearly nobody is really happy with, but if communication lines, if you will, can be opened and some negotiations and talks happen, and, you know, if we're prepared to listen to them and they'd be prepared to listen to us type of thing, that improvements can happen. So it looks like that has happened. Some people in the background have been working on that. And I don't mean that in a nefarious way in the background. I mean, you know, they've been talking to each other privately, not secretly, privately. There's a difference, as we all know. So it looks like, I think it's Dublin City Council are possibly going to facilitate, I think is the correct term, the turning of the seal in the Mansion House in Dublin again. It will be the private session, as it's always been a private session, folks. Even right back in 1919, the first session of the sovereign government of the Sovereign Republic of Ireland was at noon in the Mansion House, in the cabinet room. That was the private session. And then the public session was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's always the way it's been done. Now, I know many of you have said, well, Billy has been saying to people down through the years, yes, come and attend and view and see the turning of the sovereign seal, etc. Absolutely. However, as I would say, it has always been described as a private function. It is private, so invitations aren't, for example, 4 million people. The whole country can't pile into that one room, right? That's just illogical. And they knew that too. That's why they had the public session in the large round room of the Mansion House. So they said, right, well, every dog and devil, if you will, can pile into the Mansion House afterwards. And that's the idea is, so this year, the turning of the seal is going to happen in the Mansion House. There's still some negotiations going on. Again, I'll call Billy in a moment. And then there'll be the public session will be 3 p.m. in Wynn's Hotel. Now, Wynn's Hotel, again, there's extraordinary historical significance around Wynn's Hotel, and I'm sure you guys could probably tell me more than I know about that. However, so that's I believe that's how it is at present. Maybe it'll change. I don't know. So it was great to see, if you will, that some of the Sinn Féin people seem to think that this is a good thing. I saw Bartle Darcy had a photograph of the tunnels, which was exceptional to see. The tunnels under, in round from Parnell Square, etc., on Parnell Street on up to Vaughan's Hotel or wherever they were going. I'm not sure where they go. But which is what Billy McGuire has always maintained, that the reason that the people from the GPO were heading up Moore Street and through Moore, in fact they had broken through all the buildings of Moore Street, is that they were heading to those tunnels to go down under the ground at Dublin and back up to pop up to escape. That was their escape route essentially. And seemingly it was denied that these tunnels existed for years and years. But lo and behold, there's a photograph of Bartle Darcy standing in one on his Facebook page. So again, another thing Billy McGuire told us turns out to be absolutely true and correct. I'm going to try and call Billy in now, folks. Give me a few minutes. I will put a tune on for you. And, oh yes, sorry. So I won't take calls for the first hour or so with Billy on, and I don't think Billy will be able to stay with me too long. But near the end, if Billy agrees to take a call on, if you really want to make a call, by all means, 01443 3309. Write that number down, 01443 3309. Or, of course, you can call in over Skype. You'd have to add me as a contact. VINCENTTEMP and the digit 1, Vincent Temp 1. And I would hope that anybody who does call in keeps it cordial and civilized. Let's have some civil discourse here, folks. By all means, if you disagree, there's no problem if you call in and you want to disagree. And nobody has a problem with that. As I say, as long as you're polite and you're not rude, we've no problem with that. And if you disagree on a point, well, that's okay. That can be talked about, and it can be, it can be worked out, as they say, over time. Calm, steady heads. That's what we need, I think. Let's make 1916 be remembered in 2016 as a year that we went to peace and that we successfully achieved what we as a people want to achieve in peace and harmony. I mean, why is that wrong? Let's not going to war, folks. I'm going to tell you, going to war is an impossibility nowadays. It's impossible. It will not work. It cannot work. It's illogical. It only leads to, well, we've seen what it leads to. It's no way to live, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to try and call Billy in there now. I'll put a quick tune on for you, folks. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. It's ringing now. It's a little loud, actually. That should be a little better now. Give me a second.
Hello?
Hi, Billy. Can you hear me?
Hi, Vincent. How are you?
Excellent. We're live on the radio at the moment.
Oh.
Excellent.
Can you get a little louder, Vincent?
Oh, you want me a little louder? Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
How's that there now? Is that any better for you?
Yeah, that's a bit better.
Okay, excellent. Well, welcome again back to People's Internet Radio, Billy. And, of course, as always, we're always delighted to speak to you. And I was making a point there. I don't know if you could hear me earlier on.
No, I can't, Vincent, because they cut off my broadband and I haven't had any broadband for such a long time. I haven't even been able to listen to you except on the telephone.
Phone, yeah.
But anyway, I'd like to say good evening to all your listeners
well,
and to you, and wish them all
a
very happy new year. It's a very important year, 2016, the 100th anniversary of the revolution, as they call it.
Well, the first thing I wanted to ask you, Billy, if you don't mind, I have about 3 or 4 different separate kind of issues I want to go through with you, if that's okay. So the first one is I would like you to clearly, unequivocally state that you are more than willing to be interviewed by anybody out there who's willing to interview you by any media. Isn't that correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, look, it's not Billy McGuire's important. It's the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Republican Brotherhood, who funded and founded the state, and we're just airbrushed out of everything. And how can you make a valid judgment on anything if you don't have the facts? And all we do, Vincent, we're not a political party, as you know. We just give the facts.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and in fairness, I think a lot of people need to take that on board, Billy, that, as you say, you are not the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and your position is a non-political, it's apolitical. You're not part of politics.
Absolutely. And the Irish Republican Brotherhood, they abhor war, they abhor violence, corruption, maladministration, propaganda, lies and deception. Sovereign citizens don't live like that. You have to be upfront with our citizens and with our people. And I think, people don't understand that. I mean, I was looking there at, they're talking about William Butler Yeats and Sligo and all that, and I was listening about, great grand William Butler Yeats was a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And
right.
and and I heard them talking about putting the coinage on the they called it the harp, because we know it's the sovereign seal, and 14 strings on the money. And he did it because he was a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. I think people should understand that, We're just being fed all this lies and deception all the time, and I abhor that,
Well, okay,
it's
so
time we grow up.
the three things really I wanted to discuss. First of all, I wanted to get it clear out there that you're willing, if somebody else is listening, because we get told, Billy, oh, you guys are the only people who interview Billy McGuire. And I say, that's not true. Billy McGuire will do an interview with anybody. In fact, I've given out your home phone number here many times over the airways. I said to people, there's Billy's phone number. Go ahead, call him. He'll talk to you.
Yeah, but as you know, Vincent, over the years, RTE, the national broadcast and that, they have refused to even mention the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenian Republican Brotherhood.
Yeah.
And they don't mention our proclamation or the sovereign constitution and the sovereign seals and harp. We never mentioned. We're airbrushed out of everything. Yeah. And I'm amazed.
Well, what I was really pointing to, though, Billy, is other internet radios, even such as we are operating, that you were absolutely willing to go on and do interviews with them.
Absolutely, Vincent. We have nothing to hide. We only give out the facts the best way we can. And you either agree with them or you don't. You either have sovereignty or you don't have it. And that's what those 1916 was all about. Going out, those volunteers gave their lives. They carried the sovereign seals, 8 strings, IV, Irish volunteers. And those Irish volunteers, they were all founded. And the Citizens' Army, and Cumann Mann and Inina Hearn and all those. They're all Irish Republican Brotherhood. The backbone is the GAA. That's their organisation. Sinn Féin is the political wing of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Mm-hmm. And that's the mandate we have, and we hold the 32-county election of 1918 from Vaughan's Hotel and ratified on the 21st of January 1919 by the will of all the citizens of Éire. And that's what we hold, and we still hold that mandate today.
And again, Billy, I think this is very important for people to understand and to comprehend that on the internet there's a Wikipedia page on the internet which, as I say, can be edited by anyone, although it seems if anybody who seems to actually know what went on tries to edit, their edits will be deleted. And in the Wikipedia page, I've seen a lot of people quote this, that they say the IRB subsequently dissolved itself, although it is not known whether a formal decision was taken or it simply ceased to function. Now, nowhere does that say, essentially, that the IRB was ever dissolved. What they're saying there is they don't know. So I would like you to absolutely and unequivocally
the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenian Republican Brotherhood, were never dissolved by anybody. Right. And if you read the proclamation, that's our proclamation. Of course, nobody ever refers to that as the Irish Republican Brotherhood's proclamation. And that's a scandal. And that happened all during from the 6th of December 1921. When under the signing of that illegal and fraudulent agreement that was imposed by King George V as a British apartheid system for the 26 and 6 counties of Ireland as an Orange-free state and a provisional government. And some of the members of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, Collins had to step down to sign that illegal agreement and give his allegiance to the Crown of England. And as a consequence of that, Mulcahy, he tried to take the sovereignty for that group of betrayers who committed treason, and Michael Collins on the 21st of January 1919 was Minister for Finance. On the 6th of December 1921, Michael Collins had to step down from the Irish Republican Brotherhood to sign that illegal agreement, and he was only provisional minister for finance. And that's the difference. We don't have a sovereign government, although Enda Kenny was talking about a sovereign government, and he certainly he doesn't recognise the Irish Republican Brotherhood or the Fenian Brotherhood or the sovereignty of the state. He only recognises what the British apartheid system that was imposed by King George V on the 6th of December 1921.
Now, on that point, Billy, I mean, I've posted it up here. What I did was, before I knew you were coming on tonight, of course, and before you were coming on, I went through some of the old images and posters I'd put up on Facebook over the last year that would relate to this. And for example, I have maintained all along, and I know you agree with me, that it's impossible, it's absolutely impossible for what's referred to as the Anglo-Irish Treaty to be a legitimate treaty under international law, for the following reason: that the Crown, or the people who are on the side of the Crown, did not recognise that those individuals they referred to them as the Irish delegation, but they were not referred to or considered to be from a sovereign government. Therefore, the Crown still referred to them as subjects. Now, I made the point before you come on that the people who were executed, the 1916 leaders who were executed, that in this year 2016, that if Prince Charles, for example, I hear there's talk of Prince Charles maybe coming to Ireland as a guest, I would like to think that he might bring over good news, that that charge of treason be lifted on those men. I think that would be a very nice gesture.
You're absolutely right, Vincent, because on the people don't seem to realise that all of 1916, that was all about sovereignty, and the proclamation and the sovereign constitution are the foundation documents of the state. That's what they gave their lives for. And they carried 8 strings IV, Irish volunteers, and that became 12 strings that's on your passport, and it makes everything legal, valid, and bona fides. Yeah. That is the name of the state, is the Sovereign Republic of Eire. And Dáil Éireann is the Sovereign Republic of Eire. That's their sovereign government of the 21st of January 1919. But King George V, in August of 1919, declared the Sovereign Republic of Eire and the Sovereign Republic of Eire's Dáil Éireann government to be an illegal assembly. So how could you do what you're talking about? How can you do a treaty with an illegal assembly?
Now, not only that, what I'm going to put on the screen here for everybody to see, I have it here on the screen here now. If you're not on the screen, don't worry, I'll read it out to you. And this is from Chalmers and Asquith, Outlines of Constitutional Law, which is printed back in the early 1920s or thereabouts, and has royal legislation. The laws made by the king went by various names. There were 1, charters, or quasi-treaties made between a king and people. And I highlighted that because a quasi-treaty, when you place quasi before a word, it essentially weasels out the meaning of the word following it. And in modern legal usage, you can see there on the screen as well, quasi-contract, contract implied in law. The terms are now regarded as synonymous in referring to not to a contract at all, but to the function necessary to promote justice by preventing unjust enrichment, blah, blah, blah. If you read on down through it, you'll see what has been called quasi-contract, where was it gone? No, I've lost it now. It was not in that one. Sorry, it was there was another one. But essentially what it's saying there is that a quasi-contract is no contract at all. And a quasi-treaty is the only accurate description one could possibly give for what happened in with the so-called Anglo-Irish treaty. It can't possibly be a treaty.
There was never a treaty signed.
No, it can't be a treaty.
Because the sovereign government has never sat in Leinster House. This is where everybody keeps making the assumption. You can't make an assumption for something that didn't happen. And I mean, you have to be factually correct. Dáil Éireann sat by the will of all the people, and that's the mandate we have, and that's the mandate we implemented on the 21st of January 1919 in GHQ Vaughan's Hotel, and by the executive of the Supreme Council of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and in the Cabinet Room in the Mansion House, and by the Cabinet, and by the Sovereign Republic of Eire's Dáil Éireann government in the Round Room. And that's the mandate that we have, and now, that's the sovereignty.
Now, what I've also put on screen here as well, Billy, is this was a letter. And if you look at the top of it, everybody else will be able to see this, Billy, sorry, just so you know. You'll see up the top of this letter, and this was in relation to, there's a link there, the journal.ie, letter Tuam, Mother and Baby Home. This was to do with that scandal that happened with the babies. But you'll see that Éire is at the top, and just the sovereign seal at the top, and the word ERA is underneath it, and it's dated 1956, and there is ERA underneath the sovereign seal.
It has to have ERA on it, because if it hasn't ERA, and this is what they're lacking today, if the name of the state is the Sovereign Republic of ERA, there was no other state founded or funded in ERA, and it was founded and funded excuse me, by the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Republican Brotherhood. That's who funded and founded the state. And the name of the state is the Sovereign Republic of ERA, and that's what King George V couldn't accept and wouldn't accept. And you see, you have to go back even further than that. You know, the famous Holocaust, where they took everything out that caused the famous famine. But you see, the Crown of England that's royalty. And I've said it many times in your show. Royalty is pomp and ceremony. The Crown of England depends on the harp. The harp is the covenant between God and man, with all the information knowledge for his planet Earth and our civilization. It's the first computer known to mankind. And those first four strings, earth, air, fire, and water, and how man learned to write, how man learned to count. It's all about your being, and it's all about planet Earth and how we live our civilization in planet Earth, and that we don't destroy it. And the Crown of England depends on, you see it up in her coat of arms, she depends on the harp for sovereignty. The crowns of any crown, and the Crown of England especially, depends on the harp for their sovereignty.
And you see, I was making
knowledge for planet Earth, those four strings, and that is what it's all about.
I was making the point earlier, Billy, that
it's so important that we understand how men learn to write. The Crown's sovereignty is the very same sovereignty as every other child, because the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Brotherhood, they believe that every child is born sovereign and has a sovereign right to education, to the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water, to education, hospital care, and the assets of the state. And I would further say, that's why I ask, you know, all these countries and all these corporations and all this, where's your sovereignty? You know, today I asked it from Garda Síochána. He didn't know what I was talking about. He couldn't show it to me. And you would have to ask, the sovereignty is everything. If you don't have sovereignty, and as you know, General de Gaulle wouldn't allow Ireland to join it was the common market in those days, because we only had a provisional government since the 6th of December 1921, and we only got in when because Britain wanted to join, it was the common market at the time, and we got in under Britain's coattails. But you know that the biggest crisis coming down the road is when David Cameron he asked the people of the United Kingdom to vote whether they're going to leave the European Union or not. What position is it? Why has our provisional government their heads in their sand? Ask what's going to happen to us? We have a sovereign government that the provisional government here does not recognise, and that's the point I'm making.
Well, here's another one then, Billy. I have this. I've got again. People will be able to read this on the screen. Constitution of Ireland: Perspectives and Prospects. Eamon de Valera, which he delivered at Arbor Hill during Easter week 1933, where he emphasised the sovereignty of the Irish people and hinted at constitutional change. Now, if you scroll down to the bottom there, folks, everybody will be able to see this as well. He said, an advanced constitutional conceptualisation capable of facilitating a sovereign republic. Now, I mean, of course, you know, I know what you'd say about that, Billy, but
well,
even,
as you know, we have 5 constitutions,
right?
But the only legal, valid and bona fides one is the first sovereign constitution by the will of all the citizens of ERA in the 1918 32 county election. And if you want me to I can bring out that about de Valera's 37 constitution, where he leaves out from Article 4 and 5. I'm just looking at it here for you, and I'll read it out to you. And this is de Valera's 37.
Well, just before you do that, Billy, just before you do that, I'm going to read something from Enda Kenny, folks. This was from Enda Kenny. I have it on screen there. Looking to 2016, how stands the Republic? This was July 28th, 2013. This is the words of Enda Kenny when he was in the McGill Summer School, and he said the following. In a few short months, Ireland will be the first Eurozone country to successfully emerge from a bailout programme. Well, that remains to be seen. That will be an important moment for our country for many reasons. And here's the bit I want you to focus on. Not least because to be a real republic, Ireland must be a sovereign republic. They're the words of Enda Kenny, Billy, in 28th of July, 2013.
Yes, but it's amazing, Vincent, that he doesn't recognise that. And he doesn't recognise the Irish Republican Brotherhood or the Fenian Brotherhood who founded and funded the state.
Well, this
the
is what
Republic of Ireland.
You see, this is the problem where we're saying they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth, as it were.
Both sides.
Yeah. Sorry, would you want to read that, what you were going to read first, please?
I do, because this is De Valera's. First of all, you have the sovereign constitution. Then you have the Free State Constitution in the Shelbourne Hotel, imposed by King George V. Then you have De Valera's 37, then you have the British Constitution, and you have the European Constitution. Is that 5? But anyway, here we have Bunruck Nahair and De Valera's 37 Constitution, which we're all supposed to love. And the state, he says, Article 4. The name of the state is, De Valera says, the name of the state is Éire, or in the English language, Ireland. That is wrong.
No, correct.
The name of the state is the Sovereign Republic of Éire.
Yes.
He leaves out the Great Republic and leaves out Republic. And Article 5, Ireland is a sovereign, independent, democratic state. Ireland is a sovereign, republic, independent, democratic state. And that's because he was colluding with the British, and they wouldn't align within republic. That's what it comes from.
Now, I've put another one.
You can go further down to Article 20 if you want to go down,
sure,
and see that all money matters must initiate from Dáil. Dáil has never sat in Leinster House. And what are they talking? It's time that the truth was told to the people. And we would have a wonderful country.
Even more so, Billy. I mean, I've put another one. I've put another one there on this. 21st
of January 1919. But our politicians won't recognise it.
Exactly. I've put another one on screen there, again from Enda Kenny. This was Thursday, June the 13th, 2013. And by Mary Regan, political correspondent. And this was Kenny sends a strong message to the church to butt out. And in that, apparently, he's been quoted as saying, Enda Kenny is aware that while faith is personally important to the majority of Irish people, as he points out it is for him, well, that remains to be seen, he says there is no longer a tolerance for the church hierarchy dictating sovereign law. And yet he seems to think he can dictate sovereign law, Billy. How does he figure that one?
Well, I mean, he just does not recognise the sovereignty of the state. He only recognises King George V and what he imposed in the 6th of December 1921. And they're the facts. And look, you can't be talking. And if in Europe you have to have a sovereign government, we have a sovereign government, and Enda Kenny does not recognise that sovereign government. Or even if Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael or Labour, they don't recognise the sovereign government. Now, we also have to say that Sinn Féin is the political wing of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. They're the ones that won the 1918 32 county election. But they're all split into all different groups, and they don't even recognise the Irish Republican Brotherhood.
Well, that's why I'm thinking that wouldn't it be great this year for the 21st of January if that can be the beginning of, a nice way for people to come together and to realise that, first and foremost, if you don't have sovereignty, you can't have anything else. I mean, I've often said to people, Billy, if you live next door to me and if you need to call me and get my permission to paint your kitchen a different colour, you can't say you're living a free life. And that's essentially what it is. If you don't have sovereignty first to make your own determinations.
Well, what's happening, Vincent, that all the assets of the state, of the sovereign Republic of Éire, are all being robbed.
Yeah.
And we talk about, the Holocaust and that very good book that was written by Chris Fogarty.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what happened was there was plenty of food here, but the Crown forces took all the food, and we were left with rotten potatoes. And that you have to go back and find out the reasons for all these things happen. And we're talking about 1916. And can I mention that we're not being told the truth. And you can't understand 1916 and what happened until you go back to 1912 when Sir Edward Carson founded the Ulster Volunteers. And in 1913, Guinnesses gave 100,000, Lord Rothschild gave 100,000, and Rudyard Kipling gave 50,000 to buy the top-class German guns to arm them. And the Crown of England and the RIC did nothing, and they colluded with that. And as a consequence, the intelligence officers of the Irish Republican Brotherhood reported to the Supreme Council, the executive of the Irish Republic, what had happened. And the executive of the Supreme Council of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, they founded the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizens' Army as a defence force. And Owen MacNeil was only fronting for the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and James Connolly was only fronting for the Citizens' Army. And as a defence force, that's when you must understand that we were going to be wiped out. And in 1913, they were founded in the Rotunda, as you know, and we're going up there. We'll talk about that later on.
Okay.
And then my granduncle Tom and Sam McGuire, who was secretary of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, Sam was sent to the post office in London to collect the intelligence on the Crown forces, and Tom was sent to Calcutta in India. And they brought those intelligence to Vaughan's Hotel every week. The Irish Republican Brotherhood had only a room in Vaughan's Hotel for Mrs. Vaughan at the time. And but anyway, in 1914, the UVF, they became the UVF Army. They declared war on Britain and Ireland if Home Rule was imposed by the British government in Ireland. And the British government capitulated to the UVF Army because Germany would have wiped out Britain if they had. And you see that thing that I said about King George V on the 6th of December 1921 when he imposed that under the threat of immediate and terrible war. And they had every intention on the 21st, on the 6th of December 1921 of carrying out immediate and terrible war on our people. And that is what. And how can you said about signing treaties and about signing agreements and that. How can you sign an agreement under that?
If you're signing an agreement, I mean, look, there's no contract that's ever considered valid if somebody has a gun to their head, Billy.
Well, that's what they had, guns to their head.
Absolutely. Now, on top of that...
And it's there in black and white, and it isn't Billy McGuire that's saying it.
No.
It's the facts. And why don't we go back to that and sort out these... Look, the Queen came here, and it was a very successful visit for the Queen. But it was predicated on a Truth Commission coming out. And as you know, I live down where the University of Limerick is now, and in Limerick, and that university were given all the Vaughan's Hotel papers. And, and those Vaughan's Hotel papers are now, they don't know what they did with them.
I think they do know.
But anyway...
well, again, what I have on screen there again, Billy, a lot of people think, somehow this was fixed in 1937, and I want to reiterate and prove to you that it was not fixed in 1937.
No,
on screen there,
never.
People can see a copy of the New York Times, 1st of May, 1937, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on, I think, to read this, and it says... in effect, create a de jure independent state for all Ireland with a de facto, that means not real, de facto sovereign state, and it can't be a sovereign state, de facto state for 26 counties. That's all that the 1937 Constitution set up, was a de facto provisional government, Billy. Isn't that correct?
That's right.
It can't be anything else, can it?
No. And the point about it is, what I'm saying is, that's why we have to have a sovereign government, because the assets of the state must be invested in our citizens. For education, hospital care, all our roads are transferred, draining the River Shannon now, which we have to do. Yeah. And people should live, sovereigns, that's how they live proper lives. And that's not happened because all these people and corporations and that are walking off with all the assets of the state, and there's no accountability for anybody. And it seems to be the politicians are bought off. We saw that program there recently where politicians were bought off. And that's how things are happening under the eyes of the people. And the citizens should ask, and they should be made and held accountable. And that's what a sovereign government is all about.
And again, there, I've just put on screen about the tricolour flag that there's no mention of a gold fringe on the tricolour flag.
That's
Harry,
a
of course.
disgrace. I mean, that really, and you saw, I don't know whether you saw it on New Year's Day, and that our three flags, those three flags are Irish Republican Brotherhood flags. When Thomas Francis Meagher brought that flag over here in 1848, and it became, the Fenians were around, and so were the Young Irelanders and that, and they became the Irish Republican Brotherhood and Fenian Republican Brotherhood. They're the sister organisations. James Stephens founded the Irish Republican Brotherhood down at 16 Lombard Street on St. Patrick's Day, 1858, and John O'Mahony founded it in Dohenys in New York on the same day. That's why we celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And they adopt John Francis Meagher, Thomas Francis Meagher. He became he was a Fenian, but he was also a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And they adopted that flag, the tricolour flag, as the national flag. And as you and I, we've had discussions on that, it came with the orange nearest to the pole, and was ratified on the 21st of January 1919 with the green nearest to the pole.
I still get people saying to me, Billy, Vin, I still get people saying to me that I was holding the tricolour backwards that time outside the GPO.
That's right, I get that all the time.
And I wasn't, folks.
But the point is, that's how, look, I knew Hayes McGuire very well, and he used to come to Willowbank, and I used to go up and collect and get all those boxes. By the way, too, as you know, my father moved from Vaughan's Hotel, all the boxes of memorabilia and, the chocolate printing press and Collins bicycle and all that. And they were in the offices down in Francis Street in Limerick, over the offices. There was a huge collection, which was known as the Sack Store. And my father, at some stage, he brought them all out to Willowbank, where we lived, which is now part of the university. And there were the carpenter there was Billy Maloney, and he secured there were two wells in the house. You had
it was a double what a chippy a carpenter would call a double hip roof.
Yeah, there were two of those up on the attic, and two attics, huge attics. As you can see, you have photographed that house. And my father put up all the papers, there's a lot of them up there, ones that wouldn't be used all the time, and a lot of them were kept, the printing press was kept, I told you, at the back door, what was known as the butler's pantry, and Collins's bicycle and all that sort of cannonballs, and a lot of the old guns were up under the, in the attics. But anyway, to make a long story short, what was I going to do with those? And I remember Colonel Duggan at the time, this history, military history at the time, and he wouldn't hear of me giving it to them because he said De Valera was sanitizing, and they were rewriting a lot of those documents, and I believe that's true. And anyway, they were given to the university, that house, because that university is an Irish Republican.
How long was that going on for, Billy, do you think? How long was De Valera doing that sanitization, do you think?
From the very start.
Right. I just put another one.
When he went to America, people don't realise, in 1919, and when he saw, and he went, because James McGuire was chairman of Friends of Irish Freedom in America, they collected all that money. All that money was up for Dáil Éireann and the institutions, they were all up and working on the 21st of January 1919.
Absolutely.
And
nobody disputes that.
When he saw the huge crowds of people, that were all Irish people and all these people supporting him, that's when he got the idea that he was going to take over and he was going to found Fianna Fáil. And that money was misappropriated by De Valera and afterwards by Michael Collins and by the Common Gael government, who set up Fine Gael out of it. And they're still. And
again, Billy, I think it's important that we point out at this stage that, again, you're not having a crack at anybody here. You actually admire a lot of the men from back then, even if you don't like what they did. But
what I'm saying is, we're 100 years on, and we haven't.
Exactly.
Where's the sovereignty? And what's going to happen when the Crown of England, who depends on the harp, and if you noticed in the PNSI, they put the sovereign seal opposite the crown and made it equal. Yeah. But in the coat of arms of the Crown of England, it is the harp. And the harp is the covenant between God and man. I keep on repeating that all the time. And the crown's sovereignty comes from the harp. And the America depend on the Crown of England for sovereignty. And because the Crown still regards America as subjects to the Crown.
Absolutely.
And they depend on. See, that's what people don't understand.
In fact, Billy, there's a load of
He depended on the harp for his sovereignty.
Absolutely. There's a load of radio shows across the internet from America, guys, and you can listen to them, and they all keep saying to all the American people that the Crown is still operating in charge.
It does. It does.
America.
And still regards the American people as subjects. Yeah. And America is going off to war in all these countries under the sovereignty of, they say, the Crown, which the Crown hasn't any sovereignty at all. The Crown is royalty, and that's propaganda.
Well, I would make the argument, Billy.
Is pomp and ceremony.
In fact, I made the argument earlier.
How you conduct and how you look after planet Earth and how you look after your being, yourself.
Well, isn't it like this, Billy? Doesn't logic and reason dictate that I can't possibly be sovereign if I don't recognise the sovereignty of others? And the Crown, essentially, that's what the Crown is saying. So the Crown, in my opinion, by not accepting the sovereignty of others, they're actually denying their own sovereignty.
I've not learned that, but, as I said it earlier, that that the Queen's visit was predicated on a truth commission going back to 1912.
Yeah.
About where did they get, who gave all that money to buy the top-class German guns for the UVF army, and who capitulated? That must all come out. Right. And did it happen? Not at all. And the peace, reconciliation and prosperity process, which the University of Limerick, it was founded in 1950, that peace, reconciliation, because my father was the one behind it. There was a lot of great people behind that. And it's now been scrapped, the whole thing.
Yeah. Because
that money that was given, that Chuck Feeney was giving £5 million, €5 million at the time, to buy Vaughan's Hotel, and he was going to extend Willowbank for the peace, reconciliation and prosperity process for the world where conflicts would be there. And that money was, because I know from Hugh Coveney, I was quite worked closely with Hugh Coveney right up to, I think, roughly the week before he died, and the letter that he
And just
wrote,
so people know, Billy, that's Simon Coveney is his son.
Yes, he is. And he doesn't recognise the Irish Republican Brotherhood either.
No.
But Hugh Coveney did. And Hugh Coveney told me that money was misappropriated by Fine Gael for their own purposes. Instead of buying Vaughan's Hotel, as the money was put up, that Brendan O'Regan told me he went to Chuck Feeney at the time, because he was the one who talked Chuck Feeney all about duty-free. And he was and Chuck Feeney had agreed to buy Vaughan's Hotel and had his office in one of the buildings, as you know, it's 29 Parnell Square in Granby Row, and he was going to Willowbank probably wouldn't be big enough. It was a big house and beautiful gardens and surroundings right on the River Shannon, and but he was going to build, and then all this was done, and what did they do? They at the end. Fine Gael were in government with Labour at the time, and they got at Willowbank, and it's there. You can see the grounds, you can see the places there. But they got, and that Tom Connors told me, who he said that the house wasn't big enough for the peace and reconciliation and prosperity process, and it was Tom O'Donnell that was in charge, because Brendan O'Regan wasn't in charge at that stage. And I asked Tom, he asked Tom, what did you do with all the Vaughan's Hotel papers and memorabilia and all the guns and cannonballs and all the swords and things that were there? And he won't tell anybody.
Wow.
And that Tom told me, Tom O'Connor, who got the contract to take down the building, and he was told it wasn't big enough. He told me that 3 furniture, those big furniture van loads of all the documents, all the names of all the members of the Irish Republican, all the plans for the rising, the plans for Oglen Ahern's plan from the escape from the GPO up to Moore Street, and in the Rotunda, all these tunnels were down the rotunda. And I've been saying it to historians for years, and they all say, "Oh, the man that Billy McGuire is mad. There's no tunnels." Those tunnels led up to Vaughan's Hotel, and that was the escape plan for all those volunteers in Citizens Army. They would go, and as you know, Moore Street is just across the road.
Of course.
It's only a few yards.
Of course. Well, they were heading up there for a reason, Billy. Clearly they were heading up there
Sorry?
for a reason. I mean, there was no way they were heading up there. I just also like to throw in here, I have a little one on the screen there, Bilderberg Club. Simon Coveney has been at the Bilderberg conference along with Peter Sutherland, and I believe Noonan. In fact, I think Noonan is going again. You know, there's very strange things happening at this Bilderberg meeting, Billy. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. The High and the Mighty.
I don't know much about them now, to be honest. I don't. I just do sovereignty and the legitimacy of the state. As you know, I don't do anything else. And I keep it to that very simply.
Yeah.
But as you know, I'm the last member left of the Supreme Council of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And it does worry me. You know, we have a very nice committee, all working very hard. And I must congratulate Christina and Harry and, you know, Robert and Darren and you know, Mick and Michael. And, you know, we have so many people, and Tom and all those, and Tom Ryan, and you know, and who work very hard, and we only do it for voluntary. We don't have any money, as you know.
Absolutely.
But we keep the sovereignty, the legitimacy of the state alive.
And again,
now, if what's going to happen when Britain pull out of the European Union? We have a sovereign government.
Well, see, this is it. That was part of the question about the 6 counties. That if Britain did, if Britain did pull out, what would happen to the so-called 6 counties? And it was put out there that they would remain in, thereby keeping Ireland in, because that is the connection that Ireland, essentially, as it stands under the 26 county provisional government structure, they're being held in the EU via the connection with the Crown.
That's how we're in Europe. Yeah. We're not in there as a sovereign government.
No.
But the point is, what are all these other European countries going to say? Look, Ireland, give back all that money you've got from us. I mean, look at all the roads they built. Yeah. You can criticise them as much as you like, but we never got anything from Britain or anybody else. Yeah. We got what we got, we paid well for it.
Well, I think again, even Europe. I mean, Europe
taking all the
European system
in this country. And Chris Fogarty is right about the Holocaust. Always the trouble in this country is that these people, I mean, the Crown forces couldn't operate without Ireland, and Ireland paid a huge price in all that food that was taken out, and that's what caused the famine. Today, look at the gas being taken out, and I would like to see that corporation's license, Vincent.
Again, I have one on the screen here for Irish Water as well. Irish Water don't have a license.
Where do they have their license from? Yeah. Where are they getting their license? The only one that can issue a license is the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And that's what we'll be doing. All licenses are legal and valid and bona fides from the 21st of January to the 20th of January each and every year, where they revert back to the sovereign citizens of the Sovereign Republic of Éire and the sovereign government of the Sovereign Republic of Éire, Dáil Éireann. That's the sovereign government, not this Dáil, the Royal Dáil, and the Royal Oireachtas that was imposed by King George V. They're the only ones that ever vote for anything. And what is going to happen? And why can't we sort that out now, rather than this awful crisis that people went through? They lost their houses over the banking crisis because people were robbing it off. I saw the IFA robbing the assets of the state. Everybody seems to think they can rob what they like here and get away with it. And I say you can't. You have to account no matter who you are.
Sooner or later, Billy. I mean, it's like this. It's like the way I see it, rather, this is my opinion, is that the people who are alive now, I mean, I know of people now say, "Oh, Vin, look, what the hell does all that have to do with me? That was 100 years ago." And I say, well, technically you're correct, that it doesn't really directly have anything to do with you. I say, however, you're alive now, and you're alive now living in and under an oppressive regime that was put in place by people who had a certain mindset. Their mindset was that you are essentially subject, somehow less than the ruling, and I'm going to call them what they are, the ruling elites that are operating at the moment.
Would you call
under
them
the
a
Crown
slave,
system.
Vincent? A slave.
Essentially a slave. And I said,
That's what you are.
yeah, and I said, now,
Without sovereignty, you're a slave.
without sovereignty, you're a slave. Absolutely. So,
and anybody can come in and take all your assets, and that's what they're doing.
That's exactly what's happening. And I say, sooner or later, either we change the way that is, or basically forget about it. Forget about ever wanting to be even remotely be free.
And what do you want for your children? Do you want to have your children enslaved and because you didn't bother doing anything about it?
Yeah.
You didn't want to listen. You don't ask the questions. Don't you want your children to be sovereign citizens, to have education, hospital care, and be part of the civilized world that we have? Travel in planes, have a passport that you can go any place, and be proud that you're a sovereign citizen. And we have it, and we're desecrating that every day. We see what's happening on that. But anyway, look, I put up that on the, at least I don't know whether I put it up or not, but I sent it anyway to you. And on the back of the 1916 proclamation, I was hoping tonight that you might read the proclamation for people to understand it. And I say, who founded the state? These are the questions asked. Who founded the Sovereign Republic of Eire? Question mark. Who founded the Irish Volunteers and the Citizens' Army? Who founded the GAA? And the answer is the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And if you read the 1916 proclamation and the Sovereign Constitution for confirmation, you get the answers. And all those answers, I'm told, as you know, I'm not into they keep on taking my broadband and taking away my telephone line and everything because they don't want me speaking. But you get the answers on, look, having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through her open... doesn't that tell you who wrote the 1916 proclamation? And what's Enda Kenny talking about? He said our proclamation. It isn't his proclamation.
Well, that was that one caught me by surprise.
Keep it in trust for the sovereign citizens of the sovereign Double Éireann government.
When Enda Kenny said that, Billy, he said our proclamation. Yeah. Now, did he not just place himself under the proclamation by doing that?
He did. But he doesn't recognise it then. He's talking both.
Well, I think he did just recognise it, and I think from now on he's going to have to be careful because he did recognise it.
Well, it's treason, and it tells you quite clear. We place the cause of the Irish Republican Brotherhood under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessings we invoke upon our arms. And we pray that no one who serves that cause will dishonour it by cowardice, inhumanity, or rapine. And doesn't that tell you? And you can be indicted in the Old Éireann court, which is still there, it's still in existence, but no one ever hears anything about it. And they have to be taught how to be held accountable. And I think that's very important. As we are onto that, if you look at I was looking at those papers which I mentioned to you, there's 500 new books out. And where are all these great historians? All they're doing is rewriting our history. Why don't they ask the questions? Why didn't they ask the question of Enda Kenny on Friday when he was up and we're all supposed to be welcome, and yet no one knew it was on in
that was a bit of a mystery, that one, wasn't it?
And put up our three flags without. And you're talking about. I'm talking about. I'm looking at the Revolution papers, which are a copy of the papers that were printed in 1916, and you can buy it for, I think it's about €3. And I didn't read them yet now, but there's one thing here on the third page, on the second page inside, and it says, many newspapers of the... Wait, no, I'm trying to see it. Hold on a minute.
Take your time.
Many newspapers of the time referred to the Easter Rising as a Sinn Féin Rising. This was not the case. The Easter Rising was the result of the planning, leadership, and action of the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizens' Army. Sinn Féin was a separate and distinct organisation which played no part in the events of April 1916. This is the papers 100 years ago.
And what?
You see, everybody is trying to go out and pretend Sinn Féin are pretending to. The Sinn Féin that we should have is the Sinn Féin whose allegiance is to the state, the Sovereign Republic of Eire, and was founded and funded by the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Brotherhood. And that's the mandate we were given to found and fund the state, which we did on the 21st of January 1919 by the will of all the people. And that's what people should understand. And you have all these people. It's like De Valera gone off to America at the time, and he saw all the huge number of people, and he decided that he would get them to support him financially and every other way. And he wanted to run the country, and that's why he set up Fianna Fáil. And as you notice, he left out Republican out of that. And how can Fianna Fáil stand up and say they're a Republican party when they're not? They're only telling lies.
Yeah, it's a very strange one.
And it's there in black and white for anyone to read it.
So, Billy,
and
just
should be held accountable the same as Fine Gael. And why didn't I was looking at Francis Fitzgerald, who wrote a letter to us up in Billy McGuire someplace about Michael Collins on the 6th of December 1921 had to step down from the Irish Republican Brotherhood when he was president of it to sign that illegal and fraudulent agreement and give his allegiance to the Crown of England. And had to do it. And all right, it was under the threat of immediate and terrible war. And they would have wiped out Ireland because all
I agree. I absolutely,
interested in is all to feed the Crown forces, and they had the best fed Crown forces in the world at the expense of Ireland. And they're the facts. And that's why I asked that, when we were asked to give permission, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, for the Queen's visit here, and that took 10 years from the House of Lords, and I said, right, but it's predicated on the fact that a truth commission must be set up, and all those facts must come out, because, look, we don't want to fight with anybody. We've never went to war with anybody.
Only a madman, Billy. Only a madman wants to go to war.
What are you going to war for?
Yeah.
And these people going off to war thinking they have a sovereignty and all that, and they can go in and destroy it. Why can't you just try the world with a sovereign, that every child is born sovereign, and you're total, and every person is valued for the, and you can have it because your whole being is predicated on the harp. The harp, the four strings of the harp, is the first computer known to mankind, and it teaches men how to read, write, count, mathematics, all science, all astronomy. Everything you have comes from that, and your intellect of five senses. And we counted the Earth and 9 strings, and the 12th, then the sovereign Trinity, and that's how your being works, and that's how you understand planet work. If we don't do it now, they're all talking about climate change. We'll destroy planet Earth. And that's what's going to happen. You can see it happening every day because people don't want to understand it. And it's there. Every child can understand that.
So can we just move forward, if you don't mind, Billy, to January 21st?
Right.
So, have you has anything been confirmed yet?
Well, as you know, I wrote, was it in September, to the Lord Mayor and asked about, I think it is on now, and we were told that 20 people would be considered, but the Lord Mayor would give the invitations. We cannot give the invitations. Right. And as you know, Dublin City Council...
I do understand that it's the Lord Mayor's dwelling.
It is, but it's Dublin City Council are calling the shots, and they don't want the Irish Republican Brotherhood because that water thing at the time.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I understand that it's a delicate situation, I suppose, in one way, but it's not an impossible situation.
But you look at the Holocaust. It would be there. Is it the following Sunday or Sunday week or after?
That's right.
And they had 150 people inside in the cabinet room, and we're only allowed 20.
I think in fairness, I think they take out the table for that, though.
They do. They take out the table.
So I can kind of understand that. I'm trying to be as reasonable.
Take out that table. There's a man there who does it, and they do it. And you think it's a big job. I saw them doing it because one day we were doing it, and they had to come in and do it immediately. We had to be out of there by 1 o'clock, and they had to take out the table. And by the time we had packed up, they had the table all gone.
Yeah. Oh no, it'll go in 10 minutes. But I'm saying they do, or 10 or 15 minutes. But they do take it out for that, is what I'm saying. So in theory,
they do. But yet we're only allowed where the state was. We don't seem to want to find the state, but and we should be proud that we have what those volunteers, and we should be honouring their memory. They gave their lives. They carried 8 strings IV Irish volunteers, and as you know, the sovereign seals. The Book of Psalms is the Psalter, and our sovereign seal is the Psaltery, the instrument that accompanies the Psalms. And it has the 2 images, from wrong to right, evil to good, man's intellect and reason. And that is Anno Domini 2015. It will be 2016 now on the 21st.
Yeah, I just want to throw something out there, Billy. I did a refresh on the site, folks. I don't know if anybody's asking questions on the site because I can't see the chat box at the moment. So if you have a question and it's real important to you, I'm very sorry to say you're going to have to call in. That's just what can I say? I can't see the chat box. So, Billy, for January 21st, the intention so far...
I don't honestly know what's going to happen, and there's the truth of it.
Okay,
what we're told is, and we're having, what we're hoping to do is that in the morning of the 21st, that the Irish Republican Brotherhood will raise their tricolour flag on the GPO, but there seems to be difficulties on that when health and safety reasons. I don't think there was any health and safety reasons 100 years ago in 1916, because that's our tricolour flag, as we've explained. And as you know, when the proclamation has been read, I have to hold that tricolour flag in my hand.
Well, now, can you explain that? Because people have heard you say that.
Own that flag.
Can you explain that again, Billy?
In trust for the sovereign citizens. That's why we hold it. It's never been captured, as you know. And as you know, it was taken down by Dermot Lynch and kept in Vaughan's Hotel. In actual fact, I believe it was taken up on those tunnels that we were talking about in the Rotunda up to Vaughan's Hotel. That's how it went up there. And it was kept there ever
Which
since,
would make sense, of
until
course.
it was ratified by the will of all the people on the 21st of January 1919. And we're going up then to the Mansion House, we believe, and there's only 20 people allowed in, and they're at the invitation of the Lord Mayor only. Now, they're not going to allow any other people. They don't want people at the Mansion House. And what they're doing then is we're going back down to the GPO, and we read our proclamation, and then we're going up Moore Street and explaining Oglen Ahern's the evacuation plan, which is in the Vaughan's Hotel papers. I've often seen it, for going up Moore Street. That's the reason. I mean, they weren't going up Moore Street for a pint or up for or some sort of a chat. They were going up. That was the escape plan.
Of course.
And to go down those tunnels that are in the Rotunda, although, as I said earlier, that those great historians who have asked to go down to those tunnels said, oh, no, there's no tunnels. And Bartle Darcy, who has done, for the O'Donovan Rossa, and is doing, the commemoration for 2016 in the Rotunda, he told me, I think it was last Monday week, that he was down in those tunnels, and they do exist. And that was the escape plan. And the Crown Forces...
Absolutely, sure. I saw a photograph of him down there. I saw
Sorry, Vincent?
I saw a photograph of Bartle Darcy down in the tunnels.
Oh, did you?
Yes, he has a photograph on his Facebook page if anybody wants to go and have a look.
I didn't know that. But anyway, he rang me to tell me that they were there, because I've been shouting about it for so long, about people. If you don't understand those facts, how can you understand what's happened in 1916? You see, Enda Kenny doesn't want you to understand 1916, and neither does Fianna Fáil, or even the Labour.
Is it a case that they actually don't want to, Billy? I mean, is it a case that they don't actually want to?
They don't want you to understand it. They don't want you. They want to control you, and they don't want you to ask any difficult questions like, "Where's your license to trade?" and about the tricolour. They want to think that they can take our tricolour whenever they want and use it and do what they like, but they can't, because it's treason. If you read the proclamation, anyway, we're going up to there, and Barclay is going to explain because he's having an exhibition on there in February. And we're going to be able to see the tunnels, which I'm looking forward to seeing all these years. And then we're going up to the Garden of Remembrance, and we're saying prayers for all those coming among the Fianna, Amy, Nahairn, the Irish Volunteer Citizens Army, and all who gave their lives. And then we're going over to Vaughan's Hotel, because that's where the state was actually founded and funded by the Irish Republican Brother, the Fianna Brother, including my own family. And we're going back down then to Wynn's Hotel,
Now,
and they had that booked from 3 to 6.
what type of capacity will that take, Billy? How many people will fit into the room?
It's up in the ballroom. I'm not sure.
But it's like we're talking a few hundred, yeah?
I'd say so. I don't know exactly.
And
but anyway, from 3 to 6. Now, we don't know whether the Lord Mayor's going to come down there and read the proclamation.
Right.
I asked Barclay on the other day, and she will read the proclamation in the cabinet room when we turn the sovereign seal and claim our sovereignty.
Right.
Because all licenses are only legal, valid, bona fides. That's very important about our licenses.
It is. Now, there's something you said there, Billy, and I'm sorry, I just want to bring you back to it because, again, there was some people who were, I'm going to tell you straight, they seem to be a bit miffed, a bit upset the fact that they are seemingly that I don't know whether it's Dublin City Council or the Lord Mayor's office or whomever, but that they don't want the people to attend at the Mansion House.
Yeah, I find that very sad too, because I mean, it is a wonderful, joyous day.
Well, I see.
I'll just end the Kenny and the Department of Foreign Affairs were saying that there's 1 million Irish people in Argentina. They're all celebrating, and all the countries, America, and all these countries around the world, and we're not allowed to celebrate here. But I'll also bring you on to something which is very important, Vincent. And I'm reading yesterday's Irish Times, right? Prince of Wales may be invited to 1916 event.
Right.
And this is Heather Humphreys. And how is it that she refuses to invite the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Brotherhood to any event? And then the Kenny has refused to invite the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian. Would that happen in any other country in the world?
And that's very interesting.
And it says, anyone can read yesterday's Irish Times, and it's an article by Rowan McGuire. Prince Charles may be invited to an Easter Rising commemoration event. Minister of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, Heather Humphreys, has said, I know that Prince Charles has indicated that he would like to come back to Ireland. And then you go down and you read about where have I got it now? The government. There says she also says about Mr. Humphrey said, I don't want anything. That the unionists will. Yesterday, hundreds of people turned out for that event on Friday. No government from foreign government other than the ambassadors will be invited to the main event. And the organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenian Brotherhood, who founded the whole thing, who owns the tricolour flag, and who owns all those flags and the Star and Seals and symbols of the proclamation, are not invited to any event. Now,
it's very strange that you mention Heather Humphreys, Billy, and I'll tell you why. Somebody had joined our website, People's Internet Radio. I'll say somebody for the moment because they basically they used the name Heather Humphreys and they had it spelt, they didn't have it spelt the way Heather Humphreys has her name spelt. They had it spelt with IES rather than the Y.
Right.
And the email, I'm actually going to say what the email address was because I don't actually believe it was Heather Humphreys, quite frankly. But I think perhaps if Heather Humphreys or one of our people or somebody is listening, perhaps they should be aware of this, that somebody is seemingly using an email address that could possibly lead people to believe it was coming from her. And the email address they were using was hhtdoroctus at gmail.com. That was the email they were using. They had joined the site with that email. Now, because they were very disruptive on the site, and we removed them. But that was I'm going to read that email address again. It was hh, meaning, I suppose, Heather Humphreys, tdoroctus at gmail.com. And as I said, we do not believe for a moment it was Heather Humphreys that was in under that. So in case somebody might be using that to, to lead people to believe that it was Heather Humphreys, I don't know.
Yeah, but Vincent, isn't it unbelievable that the organisation who funded and founded the state and those volunteers who gave their lives are not invited to the celebrations in 2016.
Well, as I said, Billy, I don't think if Prince Charles was to come over and attend with something from the Crown to say yes that the charge of treason to the Crown has been lifted on the leaders of 1916, I don't think anyone would have it. In fact, I'd say he'd be welcomed.
Look, Sure, we're not against anybody. The Irish Republican Brotherhood, we're all for our sovereign citizens and the welfare of them, properly educated, properly fed and found and looked after. That's what we're all about. But when I see, look, and here we have yesterday's event. It talked about Dublin Castle, and it says that President Michael D. Higgins. Michael D. Higgins is not the president. He is the usurper president. He is of the British apartheid system that was imposed by King George V in 1921 on the 6th of December as a British apartheid system and an Orange Free State. And that's what he is, and he is his allegiance is to the Crown of England. He does not recognise the Sovereign Republic of Ireland. He uses our symbols, and as you know, I had murder with him over putting that gold braiding, that anti-gold braiding around our tricolour flag, and I was told by the Department of Foreign Affairs, we didn't use the Irish Republican Brothers tricolour flag. We used a fourth colour. We don't have a fourth colour flag.
That's so important, Billy. I'm very sorry. Can you just repeat precisely what you just said there again?
About the what?
About the fringe on the flag. They said they did not use...
Oh, that's a British Admiralty code. They said, we didn't use the Irish Republican Brothers tricolour flag. We used a fourth colour is what they called it. We didn't use your flag, they said.
Who was it said that to you?
Well, it came from the Department of Foreign Affairs.
And did they send that to you in writing?
No, they won't put it in writing.
Right. They just said that over the phone.
I asked Michael D. Higgins' wife about it, and she said that they had nothing to do with it. It was the Department of Foreign Affairs that did that. I asked her, I met her, and she's a very nice lady. As you know, I know Michael D. Higgins since we go back a long, long time.
Yep.
And the contempt he has for the Irish Republican Brotherhood is unbelievable. The contempt that Enda Kenny has. And if you read, I'm reading bits of the paper here for you about what he said. He said the flags were raised in the tricolour and the flag of the Irish Republic, both of which flew over the GPO during the Easter week 1916, and the Irish Citizens' Army flag with the plough and the stars, which flew in the Imperial Hotel. And yet he doesn't recognise any of them. He doesn't give two damns about those flags or where they came from. It's a political stunt all the time. And he's leading us into absolute disaster. As has been of all, I can tell you, the provisional government, there is no place for a provisional government in the Sovereign Republic of Ireland in 2016. And if people want to vote for that, which is coming up very soon, be it on your own head. And don't be criticising that you haven't this and you haven't that. And what's going to happen when we told you have to get out of Europe? Who's going to pay your bill? Who's going to pay your electricity bill? You won't. We have a sovereign government that we can stay in the European Union. You cannot sit in the European Union round the table with a provisional government and General de Gaulle. And if you got any of those, and you'll have plenty of people in the European Union that will bring, because I know from here, living here in Kappa, the amount of people from Europe that are coming over asking me about our sovereignty and about the sovereign government, it's all down there.
I think they're clearly worried about it, Billy, because they were clearly deceived about this too.
They are, absolutely. We're deceiving the whole world. There's Heather Humphreys, and she'd write to Prince Charles, and she'd write to all the ambassadors for the 100th anniversary, and she refuses. I met Heather Humphreys down at the University of Limerick there last autumn, and I gave her all the information. I had to sit for an hour, because I know the Passy House very well, where she was having lunch there with her entourage. And I sat there for an hour while she had her lunch. And when she came out, I spoke to her and I welcomed her and I said who I was. And I said, there's the River Shannon. And we're both, you know, and there is talk that, you know, that, and the unions are being invited down, I see here on the paper. And they're more than welcome. I remember that, what's that? The new, who's taken over from Peter Robinson. I remember some years ago she wanted to attend. I don't know really what happened. But
I heard about that. Yeah, I can't remember her name.
But you look, we have, those people are welcome. We welcome everybody. We're not against anybody.
No.
But what we want is that sovereign government that was by the will of all the people on the 21st of January 1919 all 32 counties.
See what this is about,
That's what
Billy.
we want.
It's about what's
we want
right.
that government to be up, and that's the legitimate government of the state.
It's about what's
and no
right. It's
matter
that
what
simple.
country in the world cannot point a finger at us and say you're lying. Your propaganda, lies, and deception, and that's what those politicians are doing, and selling out the people all the time. We want our sovereign government by the will of all the people.
Question there
the legitimacy of the state.
A question there from somebody in the chat box, Heather Humphreys from Fine Gael. That's the one who you mean, yes?
That's the one I met, yeah, for Heather Humphreys.
There was another
met her
thing.
at the University of Limerick when she came down.
There was something else, Billy, that just I saw earlier on I think it was on Facebook. I think I saw this, and I thought I must remember to ask you this and to say this to you. I know we've said it before, and I have actually asked you in the past, but because I saw it again on Facebook, and I think whoever put it up there may be listening. And they were talking. I remember I said it to you because I was a bit confused as to why it was the way it was, and that was that they were confused about the colour of the Constitution being the azure blue. Again, they were confused. They thought it was a royal blue, and I said to myself, I'll make a mental note to let them know. Say again?
That is azure blue, and actually our colour is not. People think it's green. It's not. It's actually blue, and it's a gold braid. It's gold on the blue. That's for the Irish Republican Brotherhood. The green would be regarded as the Fenian.
But what I'm trying to say is that
the actual flag, on the gold was always gold because gold was the most. But it is actually blue. Whoever's on about that, and it's blue.
So I just wanted to be told there. It is like in theory, it is the correct colour. The little blue book Constitution. It is the correct colour. It should have ERA here under the sovereign seal, though.
It has to have ERA. If it isn't, look, if you get something from the income tax, and your income tax, and there's no ERA underneath it, who are you paying your taxes to?
Exactly.
But the provincial government isn't allowed to use ERA on the thing. That's why you don't see it. That's a desecration of our sovereignty. And I'm only asking that they do things correctly.
Exactly.
That's very important that people know. I mean, as I said about that, when I was in France, and I mean, you saw what happened in France, and those young people didn't know what was on their passport. They knew nothing about their tricolour flag. And the head of security came over to me and he said, they are terrorists. He said, they would not be allowed. This was last May, and look what happened since. And you have a responsibility to know what's on your passport and to know about your tricolour flag and the history of it. And about Dermot Lynch, he was the one who took it down.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, it makes absolute sense to know.
What?
Yeah. Arlene Foster, was that who you were talking about?
Arlene Foster, that's
Thank you very much.
Person. And she wanted to come there some years ago. And she was at the other party, I think, at that stage. And I was being asked, now I don't know whether they were putting me up to it or not, but they were made a big play that she wanted to come down and they should be down and all that. And what would the Irish Republican Brotherhood on the 21st? I said she'd be more than welcome. And there is talks that she will be one of the people at the Mansion House on the 21st. And it'll be very strange because we're both from Fermanagh. This is what was pointed out to me. Aileen Foster and the McGuires, my family, we're both from Fermanagh, and that we share that, and that it would be very peculiar that Enda Kenny refuses to attend the 21st, as does Susan Denham and Michael D. Higgins, who claims to be president. He's not president. He's the usurper president.
And do we have any idea, Billy, who else may be getting invited? Or
We do. We think that the American ambassador who refused to come last year is going to come. And, of course, the Indian ambassador, while an Indian representative, because, as you know, President Geary, the fourth president of India, he was here doing law. And I met him, and I told you that as a child. And he's a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenian Brotherhood, Ogden Ahern, and
in fact, if people go to my Facebook
India's
page,
independence came out of the ones to tell. I told you that's Liverpool salt tax. I mean,
if people go to my Facebook page, you'll see an article about
close to him in South Africa. But Geary is very interesting, to think they couldn't unite their people. As you know, the GA, Michael Cousy was only fronting for the Irish Republican Brotherhood. The Sam McGuire and the Lee McCarthy trophies are Irish Republican Brotherhood trophies. And we're hoping that on the 21st, this set of medals that we made, beautifully made, for All Ireland medals with the sovereign seal. They're not All Ireland medals, they're only all GA your corporate body and all things with the symbol of the serpent, they're of no consequence to anybody. But we have a set, and we have a set for whoever wins the Sam McGuire and the Lee McCarthy this year. And we hope that on the 21st that the Dublin team will come through Vaughan's Hotel, and we will just where Sam McGuire, that was his office there in 29 Parnell Square. And it would be great if the Dublin team came down with the Sam McGuire on the 21st, wouldn't it? And these are little things. And I must say that Bartle Darcy is doing great work trying to get them, but he has awful difficulties. My God, the man, I don't know how he puts up with it. I mean, I'm doing it for so long and I've seen it, all these things going on. It's very hard to see, our volunteers and Citizens Army being betrayed all the time by our own people.
But at the end of the day, Billy, I mean, and hats off to Christina and Harry and yourself and all the good work, everybody. And
I'd love to, and Christina, and she has an awful year, and I would like to particularly wish Christina a very happy New Year this year. She had a most dreadful year last year. She's so strong to be able to put up with it, know. But it is. Anyway, am I over my time? You let me go on. And as you know, they always say,
we don't start the clock when Billy McGuire calls in. We don't even start the clock, Billy.
And he goes on and on and on and on. But anyway, but look, we haven't spoken anyway for such a long time, because they actually, I believe it was the Queen's visit, the MI5 did a sweep of the area, and my phone line, which was my broadband as well, was gone, taken away. But anyway, it's back again. They keep taking it and putting it away. I don't know why they keep doing it.
They're trying to keep you in your place, Billy.
Well?
They're trying to put you in a box.
I suppose so. But anyway, look, we're still here, and it's great to be able to talk to you, and it's great to be able to talk to our people. And our people are the best people in the world. All they need is a sovereign government. That's all they need. Look what the country would have.
In fact, look, I mean, and I've said it here a million times, Billy, it's the whole world. Everybody across the world needs to have a sovereign government operating as their actual...
If you don't, you're born into slavery. And people, the way they are, all these church and state, the way they enslave our people, and they do. And if you don't have it, and wise enough, and educate yourself. I mean, it's so easy to educate yourself today with all the technology that's out there. And that's what the Irish Republican Brotherhood... There was nobody thinking of technology in 1950, but the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And all you want to tell the truth. I mean, Enda Kenny should be, and I hope Jerry Adams now will come together. And I said the door is open now. And I mean, Sinn Féin, they call themselves, every night you see Sinn Féin on the screen on RTE, and Sinn Féin did this, and Sinn Féin got 12 million in America. But Sinn Féin, that's all Irish Republican Brotherhood money, but we don't get any of it. Because you can't be claiming you either are or you're not. And if you want to be genuine and 100%, and read the proclamation and the sovereign constitution, and what those volunteers went out and gave their lives for, that's what we want. And we want our people to be proud that to walk through the world and have all these facilities for our people. That's what we have. 70 million people worldwide.
This is it. I mean, it's a very
paper there about the Department of Foreign Affairs going to all these countries of the world. I think they said between a million people in Argentina alone of Irish descent, and all want to celebrate 2016, and the Irish Republican Brotherhood were not invited to anything. I mean, O'Donovan Ross, one of our great members, and we weren't allowed. They said that we would have placards at
no placards.
At the event. We don't carry placards at any event.
No.
And going up to Arbor Hill, and I believe they're going to...
I mean, again, I've said it so many times, Billy, that the one thing that always impressed me about you and everything you ever said, it was always so about dignity. It was dignified.
That's what it was. That's
decency.
What it is. And if you haven't respect, and you have... That's what sovereignty... People don't understand what sovereignty is. Respect for yourself, your being, your senses, and your planet Earth, where it feeds you, looks after you, and what a wonderful world we have.
It's also about taking care of your children and your family the correct way, Billy, because, I mean, how can a man and a woman who can't look after the land they're living on, how can they expect it to be raising a good, decent family?
You can't.
You have
you
to.
can't.
It has to be.
I mean,
You
even
know.
if you only learned how to raise a few spuds and and to see how they work, and to see how they grow, and to see that's sovereignty.
Yeah.
Even looking after little dogs. I got a new little dog there for Christmas, and it's absolutely beautiful. But that's sovereignty. It's all part of the sovereignty of the state.
Zip.
You know, the fish, everything, the cattle, people, education, everything, every animal, every plant, every bird, every bush, tree. That's all part of everything that grows, everything that lives. That's sovereignty. That's what life is. And we have it, and the harp tells you and teaches you that the 4 strings of earth, air, fire, and water. And I got a beautiful harp made, and I must thank the prisoners, the POWs in Port They made me a beautiful harp, and with the 4 strings on it, and that's earth, air, fire, and water. And I really the magnificent craftsmanship of it, and that's sovereignty. That's what sovereignty is, and how man learn to write, how man learn to count. All the turned upside down, the sundial, the compass, the winter and summer solstice, which we're just after having. That's all on it. All how you measure land, latitude and longitude. What a symbol. And, of all the symbols, of all the gifts given to mankind, the harp, the covenant between God and man, how he lives his life and on planet Earth, and we have it, and we desecrate it. And, that upsets me. But anyway...
well, look, at the same time, it's only through education, conversation, and interaction that we're ever going to re-establish these things. I mean, I've heard people say things like, oh, do we even need a government? And, of course, I would say, well, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to have a government. I think the idea of government has been so badly abused by all those who claim to be legitimate governments over the last 100 years that people, because they don't actually know what a true, proper sovereign government is supposed to be like, that they have a very negative opinion of government, I suppose, and which is understandable. But it's only if you actually knew how life would be with a sovereign government in a sovereign republic, I don't think anybody would ever look back. It's the way forward. It's logical and it's reasonable.
Done. I mean, but you see, I think greed, all these things come in. People pull strokes.
Well, people can still, people need to realise, Billy, in a sovereign republic, you can still go and earn and be, you can make yourself rich if you have the capability. You can make yourself a wealthy man. That's not a problem. I mean, I've often said that to people about mathematically perfected economy, that just because there's a mathematically perfected economy, it doesn't mean you can't make yourself extraordinarily wealthy. If you so choose, and if you have those abilities, you can still do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Amazing but it's amazing what we have, and yet we don't appreciate. But anyway, we'll look on that thing on the Irish Times yesterday about the Prince Heather Humphreys inviting all these people, and Enda Kenny. I'm trying to find the piece about Enda Kenny, what he said about.
Well, I mean, that's a question, Billy. I mean, what if you turn up on 21st and there's Enda Kenny standing there? What'll happen? How will that go?
I'll say you're very welcome, and thank you for recognising the state, the sovereign Republic of Éire, the sovereign Republic in Dáil Éireann government, which you should be, and you can go to the European Union with a very light heart and tell them that you are a sovereign government, and you don't have to lie or cheat or propaganda lies.
Yeah, exactly, and he better start acting like it, as the fella says, because under that proclamation, I mean, he's already claimed it by saying our proclamation, right?
Yeah, he has, but he says it. That's only a political. It's like I had rupture.
No, well, I mean, at the same time, he said it. The people heard him say it. He said it. He put himself publicly underneath it. That's what he did.
It is, because he's written here, and I'm trying to find it.
Whether he likes it or not, that's what he said.
Wait a minute. President Michael D. Higgins, Taoiseach. He's not Taoiseach, he's provisional Taoiseach. Enda Kenny. Members of the Cabinet, Northern Ireland, Deputy Martin McGuinness, and European Commissioners, Bill Hogan. These are the people who attended. But Enda Kenny said something he was talking about the sovereignty and a sovereign government, but he doesn't recognise it. And Mr. Kenny described, this is what Mr. Kenny described, Easter Rising as a result of poets. Oh yeah, we'll go down a bit from that. we respect the dignity and the due, I think it's due, is it? Due. We cherish the participants and the ideals contained in the proclamation for which they fought so clearly. Here he goes on about the proclamation. And yet he obviously cannot read.
Well, it's in there 3 times, sovereignty.
That's what I was going to ask you tonight. Would you read that proclamation
for
everybody? And because it's the first of the thing, and I think you should read it, Vincent. Have you got a copy of it?
I do indeed.
And Kenny can't read it, because if he did, he would have read, having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood. He would have understood who, not Enda Kenny owns the proclamation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, who funded and founded the state with their sister organisation, which, and we must say it too, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, 18, down in 16 Number Street on St. Patrick, we said it at the beginning, that's very important. And by John O'Mahony in Dohenys in New York. People should know where these things come from and should be very proud of their tricolour and should have respect for it. And sure, if you don't know about it, you can't have respect.
Absolutely.
But I think that it would be great if you would read it for all your listeners tonight. And it's the start of the season, and they should respect it. And when you hear it and you see your own sovereignty and where it comes out of and what those people went out, and it says it here on the paper, 79 of them gave their lives. Wait a minute, will I get it? Yeah, it says, Enda Kenny, what we see now, the flags were raised, the tricolour flag, the Irish Republic, both of which flew over the... Of course, he never said that the tricolour flag was never captured by anybody.
Yeah,
it was taken down by Diarmuid Lynch and kept in Vaughan's Hotel. It was ratified by the will of all the people. They're talking here about the number 70... was it? The names of all 78 volunteers which died as a result of the Easter Rising died as a result of Easter week. That was the number, and they started and they read them out apparently. And but I do feel it would be wonderful to finish our conversation. You must be sick of me by now with the proclamation.
I will indeed. I'll be delighted to, Billy. Public Nairn. The Provisional Government of the Irish Republic. To the people of Ireland. Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood. Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. Having organised and trained her manhood through her secret revolutionary organisation, the Irish Republican Brotherhood, and through her open military organisations, the Irish Volunteers and the Irish Citizen Army, having patiently perfected her discipline, having resolutely waited for the right moment to reveal itself, she now seizes that moment, and supported by her exiled children in America and by gallant allies in Europe, but relying in the first on her own strength, she strikes in full confidence of victory. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland and to the unfettered control of Irish destinies to be sovereign and indefeasible. The long usurpation of that right by a foreign people and government has not extinguished the right, nor can it ever be extinguished except by the destruction of the Irish people. In every generation, the Irish people have asserted their right to national freedom and sovereignty. 6 times during the past 300 years they have asserted it in arms. Standing on that fundamental right, and again asserting it in arms, in the face of the world, we hereby proclaim the Irish Republic as a sovereign, independent state. We pledge our lives and the lives of our comrades in arms to the cause of its freedom, of its welfare, and of its exaltation among the nations. The Irish Republic is entitled to, and hereby claims, the allegiance of every Irish man and Irish woman. The Republic guarantees religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunities to all its citizens, and declares its resolve to pursue the happiness and prosperity of the whole nation and all of its parts, cherishing all the children of the nation equally and oblivious of the differences carefully fostered by an alien government which have divided a minority from the majority in the past. Until our arms have brought the opportune moment for the establishment of a permanent national government representative of the whole people of Ireland and elected by the suffrages of all her men and women, the provisional government hereby constituted will administer the civil and military affairs of the Republic in trust for the people. We place the cause of the Irish Republic under the protection of the Most High God, whose blessing we invoke upon our arms, and we pray that no one who serves that cause will dishonour it by cowardice, inhumanity, or rapine. In this supreme hour, the Irish nation must, by its valour and discipline, and by the readiness of its children to sacrifice themselves for the common good, prove itself worthy of the august destiny to which it is called. Signed on behalf of the Provisional Government, Thomas J. Clark, Sean McDermott, P.H. Pearce, James Connolly, Thomas McDonough, Eamon Kent, Joseph Plunkett.
Well, congratulations, Vincent. You really read that beautifully, and it is a beautiful document. And it's just, and I said to Jan O'Sullivan, who's over education, we heard another political stunt of Enda Kenny's. They gave our proclamation and our tricolour to every school. We're all for that. But they won't explain. They won't explain it. And how is it that you can read it out there beautifully and you can understand it? And about the sovereign and indefeasible, that can never be changed by anybody. No. And
because it's a simple fact,
to
Billy.
Include the sovereign constitution. The land of Ireland belongs to the citizens of Ireland.
Because if it doesn't, who else does it belong to? I mean, it's so bizarre. It's such a simple document on so many levels, and it's such a complex document on other levels. But yet, the basic simplicity of it is it's asking the question. You see, Billy. It's saying, well, if we, the Irish people, on this land here, if we're not in charge of ourselves and what happens to us on this land, how the hell could anybody else from a different land possibly be in charge? It's a ridiculous situation.
And all these documents come from the Holocaust at the time when all the food was taken, and we lost. I mean, we lost those millions of people, and all those people are still being exported by the provisional government, and now we're importing other people into the state. We saw. And you still see.
Well, look at the floods, Billy. Look what's happening with the floods and evictions and all sorts of crazy things happening all around the place. It's just bizarre. It really is.
Things are bad enough with people have to contend in their lives, but to have a sovereign government that you could rely on and that you're not being lied to, and the strokes, and people have to account. I mean, they didn't even know how much money the banks had, and everybody seemed to be robbing the assets of the state, and no one seems to be accountable.
Well, look, the banks in Ireland, I've said it before, the banks in Ireland were basically, they're the getaway car. It's the getaway car from the robbery. That's what they are. And
it's shocking. Absolutely. But it is. But anyway, that's terrific that you read that. And but anyway, I presume that we'll be chatting during the year.
Of course we will.
If I'm still able to do it. And it is a wonderful year, and all we want to do is to get the truth out there to our people, but to see how all the papers are against us.
And would you agree with what I'm saying, Billy? When I said, just before you come on, I had a little talk there, and I said to everybody, if anybody wishes to dispute any of the facts raised, absolutely, by all means, please do.
No, do.
Please
It's
do.
your sovereignty. You have to look after it. I'm not the sovereign. You are. And that's what you should understand. And, I mean, even the Crown of England, I mean, her sovereignty is coming from us, but she should respect it. She does respect it. But they can't talk about it. I mean, at this day and age, they want to bring over Prince Charles, and he's going to be the next king of England. He's going to have all these subjects. He's very, I can tell you, I've read some of his books, and so have you.
Yeah.
And he knows about sovereignty.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
he knows about where it comes from, and he knows about it.
And I've said it before, and I've said it to you too, Billy. I think Charles is a different man, shall we say. He's a different type of a character completely from his mother. I think he has a different view on things. I think it's a better
he has,
view.
And, you know, the harp is the sign of harmony. You know, when you think of all the things it does, and you listen to it, all your senses, the way it can, every one of them. But he understands it. I mean, the very first time I met you, you could understand sovereignty, Vincent. That was very difficult to meet somebody who could understand sovereignty. It is so simple. Every child in the world is initiated, you know, can understand sovereignty because it's your being. But we should live like that, and you know it's all
because it's a wonderful life like that, Billy. I mean, who here wants to wait until? I mean, again, I understand people have different beliefs, but most people have this belief that there's an afterlife, perhaps, or you know, reincarnation, or whatever it may be. That whatever your beliefs are, folks. But what's wrong with having a good life while you're actually here now and being decent and wholesome?
And that's what we do. We don't tell people how to live their life in the afterworld or where they came from. But look,
when you're here,
that was the greatest gift given to mankind, was the harp that explains. And I think the world needs that. It needs that information. That look, we're not telling you to be slaves or anything like that.
Exactly.
Just look how
Quite the opposite.
mathematics. If children mightn't understand, get a piece of string. It's all a piece of string and a stick, and you know the way I do the two signs with the two fingers and the world, you know, on your left hand side, and it's the sovereign seed, and on the right is the harp. It's the harp sign. That's the sun and the moon, and how it grows all our biomass and all our food. It's just we have it, but we're not using it, and we don't seem to. I don't know why it's not taught. And I asked Jen O'Sullivan to do something about it and to teach, but I'm afraid she hasn't done it. Yeah. And everybody just...
Well, I have to say, Billy, I mean, again, I mean, I have it here. I have one in my hand. I always have a piece of string knocking around here. People will always see me with a piece of string. I nearly always have a piece of string. And I use it. I always have a piece of string because if my children ever ask me a question, I usually have a piece of string. And a piece of string is where I begin almost all of my explanations. If I want to teach them about a circle, I'll wrap a piece of string around it.
Well, two pieces of string is how men learn to weave. Latitude and longitude, Copernicus, Galileo, and all these people had to use it. Michelangelo, all these people had to use, understood how to use it, and you know, to do a survey, everything where the strings cross, how men learned, and the wheel, you know, how the wheel was. You know, the fellows of the wheel, the strings become the spokes, and the hub becomes the...
Well, it's like, for example, I mean, I'm holding up a piece of string here in front of the camera, folks, and I'm going to bring it near the microphone, and I'm going to do something.
Oh, can you see? Can people see your program now?
Oh, they can see me, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Everybody can see and hear.
The modern technology, Vincent.
So, I mean, this piece of string, folks, I mean, they can see here. This string, you know, I can do so much to teach people about literally the physical environment they live in by using a piece of string to demonstrate to them how to master the environment. And you see, people get confused. I've often heard them saying, I mean, even somebody there typed in the chat, but the harp is a musical instrument. That's just one of its functions. It's in fact, the way to look at that is the harp is also a musical instrument.
Harmony is the important thing. That's when you've achieved sovereignty, you achieve harmony, and that's what Prince Charles knows about. You know, we've read his, you know.
And that's where we have the idea: do no harm. In other words, if you're going against harmony, you're doing harm.
That's what you're doing. You see, you understand that, Vincent, which is wonderful, and. You know, you can't build a structure without that piece of string in your hand. And how
when I was a builder, Billy, I was a builder, and every job if I want to pull a straight line to lay a hardwood floor, I use a string and a couple of nails each end, and I snap me chalk line. That's the beginnings of building your chalk line.
And that's what's so important, that people, and if they did simple things, you don't have to do it. Look, there's modern things and all sorts of things, but they all come from.
Well, I mean, if I buy a laser beam,
that those
I used laser
in-
beams as
in-
well when I was building, Billy.
Made
But
for
I
it.
tell you here now, a string
The first
is
computer
better than a
known to
laser beam.
mankind. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And the sundial, the compass, the wheel, everything is on it. How you could turn upside down, the inside,
Absolutely.
crescent moon,
Yeah.
and every child should know. Every child should know how to take a coin out of his pocket. 14 strings. We talked about Ernest Blythe, and we talked about William Butler Yeats putting them. He did it because he was a member of the Irish Republican Brother and knew what he was doing. You put that up to the mirror, and you see the harp with 14 strings. It's the sovereign trinity, and then the sovereign on the ohm stick and that. And that's how our civilization comes from.
Absolutely.
And no matter where you go or how you can achieve,
It's about
and
mastering.
changing everything.
There's a methodology. You see, mankind can master nature in many different ways. We can master nature and abuse nature, and what that does is that causes toxic results down the road for your children.
Yeah.
But we can harness nature, and
Okay.
we can use nature,
And we can destroy it, which we're doing at the moment.
and we can gain abundance, or we can gain
Famine.
famine. Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely.
And we can destroy planet Earth. And I think man might have done it one time, but I mean, that's. But they can prove. I mean, you create the 12 months calendar. How Tutankhamun built the pyramids of Egypt. It's all on your fingers. His sovereign seal. And how they did it with a piece of string, and a piece of a stick,
Yep.
and sure. It's so simple, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But we have it, and the point I'm saying is that we shouldn't lose it. That's the point I'm saying. And that was the Irish Republican Brotherhood and the Fenian Brotherhood, and they achieved that, and they wanted to keep that going. And that's what I hope that will be kept going, that people would just understand it.
I've said it to you so many times here, Billy, that, look, the information is out there. I couldn't put it back in the bag even if I tried.
Well, you can't. That's the only. I enjoy that always when you say that.
Wouldn't be possible.
Before I met you, I can tell you, and Harry and Christina and all those. I thought this is the end and it's gone, and I think it was.
Wow.
But as you say, you can't put that genie back in the bottle.
No, no, it's gone that way.
That's great.
But
it is great. But it is great, and it was great that you read the proclamation tonight. So that's what it's all about. And if you would like to just the first page of the Sovereign Constitution, would you do that?
I will.
Just Article 10. The land of Ireland belongs to the citizens of Ireland, and anyone who has trouble with their house, that these banks and things come in and say, we owned your house. Well, they don't own your land, and let them take brick by brick, slate by slate away, but keep your land. It's yours. Article 10 of the Sovereign Constitution. And about time you stood up and asked the questions. We don't want chancers and all these greedy people and lying to us, and we want them to account to us and keep the accounts properly. Can you find that?
Yep.
Just the first page.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Article 10.
No, if you do the first page, because you need to do the first page and Article 10.
So, okay, hang on, sorry, just let me get that back up again. What I'll do is I'll put it on the screen here so everybody will be able to see it as well. So do you mean from the Constitution of the Republic of Ireland?
The Sovereign Constitution.
Okay.
I want to tell you, the one can do that.
Yeah, I have it here right in front of me now. I'm going to move you.
Well, they're the two foundation documents of the state, and you might as well have the two of them. So, Enda Kenny, anyway, he should know. I sent them anyway to him, and I spoke about them. And I actually handed them to Heather Humphreys. And I explained about that and her delegation. You might as well have been talking to the wall, because I knew they didn't understand. But they're going off then. If they don't understand, you think they put their hand up and say, we don't understand it. We don't know.
Okay, so I have it here in front of me here.
Right.
The Constitution of the Republic of Ireland. To the most holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, we, the people of Ireland, dedicate our Constitution and beg the guidance of the Holy Spirit that it may be in consonance with thy divine will and contribute to thy greater glory. Amen. This Constitution shall be the Constitution of the Republic of Ireland, proclaimed in arms on Easter Monday, April 24th, 1916, and established by the will of the people of Ireland on January 21st, 1919. Do you want me to go?
Go down to the end, the next paragraph or two.
Okay, Article 1. The sovereignty of the nation is inalienable. It is therefore not within the competence of any generation of the people to surrender that sovereignty, which each generation holds in trust for the nation. The question of surrender of national independence may not be submitted to an electorate. Subject to that fundamental principle, it is hereby declared that all authority in Ireland, legislative, executive, and judicial, and all powers of government are derived solely, under God, from the people of Ireland. These powers are inherent in the people alone, by virtue of their sovereignty. They must be exercised in accordance with the principles of liberty, equality, and justice for all. Any legislation not in accordance with these principles is hereby declared to be null and void. Will I go down to Article 10 or Article 7? Is that the...
But isn't that very important that people understand that?
Absolutely.
And is that a wonderful constitution that the citizens of the 32 counties voted for? And that's the mandate we have and we hold. And why aren't people told that? The 26, and as you know what happened in the 26, that in 1922, when Collins, King George V, was Winston Churchill said, 26, when he divided from a 26 and a 6, the Orange Free State and that and the provisional government, he said, you have a mandate now, a 26 county mandate in 19. How can you have a 26 county mandate when you have a 32 county mandate? So the whole thing is, and dressing up the Free State soldiers, they were British soldiers, Crown forces, in Free State uniforms and attacking the forecourts. You know, the whole thing, why would another country, why should Britain do that to Ireland?
Well, again, I mean, I know they were different times, Billy. And I mean, I'm not trying to justify it when I say that, but I do recognise it, that, attitudes were different back then. And I suppose education levels were different and people had come through some very hard times. But I think now, I always try to look forward and I always try to look for the positive. And I think, 2016 is here. It's a 100-year anniversary. We have a chance, we the people who are alive right here and now, we have a chance to make a huge difference to our lives, our children's lives and everybody else's lives. And I think we should grasp that with both hands and run with it.
I think we should. And don't you want your children to be sovereign? Isn't that what is that your whole being? Isn't that your whole existence? Is that what you're trying to do?
Absolutely.
And isn't every family in the country trying to do the same?
Yeah. And
we have it. And the provincial government won't let us recognise it. And to see the sneaky old way they go around and and think it's great to betray our people. I don't think it's great. And I tell you, I wouldn't put up with it either. Anyway, that's me going on. When Article 10, that's the important one.
Oh God, sorry, I'll did I shut that?
That's me confusing you.
I moved it. Hold on, I moved it down again. Let me do that again. Where did I put that now? Oops.
Now, this is what I'm telling people who have houses.
I had it there a moment. Hang on, let me find it again.
You can tell the bank to come and take each brick, but leave the land. It's yours.
Exactly. They can take the house. If they can pick it up, they can have it, says you.
Yeah. And the same with those corporations that come over here and don't have a license and don't recognise the state. They can take away their corporations with them, but the land is ours.
Okay, I have it here now. The nation, this is Article 10. The nation guarantees to every Irish citizen opportunity for service at just...
No, where are you? Article 10.
Oh, hang on, which...
You're not. The land of Ireland belongs to... Go down a bit.
Wait a minute.
This is me off the top of my head. I haven't even in front of me. Article 10, the land of Ireland belongs to the citizens of Ireland and to them alone.
You're talking in the sovereign... Sorry, you're talking in the sovereign constitution or
No, the sovereign constitution.
Yeah, Article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right, go down a bit in 10. This land of Ireland belongs to the citizens of Ireland and to them alone.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry, this is notes on Article 10. Pardon me, yeah. The land of Ireland belongs to all the citizens of Ireland and to them alone. Those
That's
citizens,
by the will of all the people now in the 1918 32 election. You owned it, and
Those-
no one can put you out of it.
exactly, those
And even
citizens
if they
who
try
hold.
to take your house for a devious mean, as you kindly leave the land, please.
Yeah. Well, you see, this is an important part here. Those citizens who hold certain portions thereof hold it in trust for the nation, and shall use it for the best interest of the citizens as a whole. And I think that's the difference, Billy, that it points to you as a sovereign man or woman to say it's up to you to hold that land responsibly.
Yeah. You're the sovereign, you see. That's what I keep telling people. You must understand what sovereignty is.
In fact, I must do
And
a full
you mustn't be
reading.
talked out of by your sovereignty by devious people and unscrupulous people, who do this. They're there all the time. And we seem to be breeding them now,
In fact, I must do a full reading of this and
Anyway,
explore the different articles.
I say that, am I over the time, Vincent? I must be an age or so. She must be gone. Everybody must be gone to bed at this stage.
No, they're still listening. They're still tuned in.
We haven't had a chat, actually, for ages, so we haven't.
It's been a while.
Huh?
It's been a while. Well, over the last week or two we have had a few little ones, but only little ones.
Yeah, but, I mean, it's a very important year. And
It
it's
is,
important that people... And anyone with any questions of that, just ask. Sure, we'll try and sort it out, tell them.
Well,
But,
look,
there should be questioning Heather Humphreys. And there should be Enda Kenny and Joe Burton. I mean, they don't just recognise the state. And inviting all these people to what? They have nothing whatsoever. The provincial government has nothing to do. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael had nothing to do with 1916. And they're trying to take over and muscle in. And then Michael D. Higgins gone around, and he has no more interest in the sovereignty than the man in the moon. And he'd evict you from your house in two. He doesn't.
In
he
a
doesn't
heartbeat.
care about the people.
In a heartbeat. Yeah.
And I mean, I know him, and I know what he's like, and I know what Heather Humphreys is like. They're evil people, and they should not be near that and trying to take it over and pretend. 20, if they'll get over 2016, everybody would believe that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and Labour founded the state. Labour were there, all right, but they've gone most peculiar altogether. And nobody stands up for the people. They seem to be just exploiting the people. I saw the toll road the other day, and they're still collecting toll and sprung to the people. The people get no benefits. There's no benefit living in a provisional government. It's outdated. There's no place for propaganda, lies and deception in the sovereign Republic of Eire in 2016, and that should be everybody's, and you should be treated with respect. And the courts, I'm down on those courts because they're under English common law, and they don't respect the sovereign constitution, the will of all the people. And you say, and when you ask them, oh yes, the people are sovereign, they say that much.
Oh, there's something there from Obi-Wan in the chat box. Vin, can you ask Billy, when did Russia accept and acknowledge and recognise?
At the very beginning, they were the first, I think, to acknowledge us. And of course, India, they still do. And India has always said they would come to our assistance because India would have been a very poor country. And I mean, we took on that time in 1916, and that President Geary, we stood up for the little, and all those brotherhoods in India, in right across the whole Asia, they all gave the intelligence. And I loved those Fonsetel papers that everybody would read them and see all those great people in America, in India, and in Egypt, and all those people, because everybody wants to be sovereign. And as you know, the Hebrew people, they lost the covenant between God and man with all the information because they took it to war. You never take the sovereignty to war. In 1155, Pope Adrian IV gave it to Henry II to build his empire. But he takes it to war. Yeah. And we have the most warlike neighbours in the world in Britain. I don't know why they're always want to go to war.
Well, it's like this, Billy. If mankind is going to make a decision that the only way forward is through war, then mankind is doomed.
That's true.
That's all there is to it, in my
opinion.
That's
what's happened up to now, and that's it.
Yep.
Listen, I think, and thank you for reading the proclamation and the sovereign constitution. I think people alone, if you're down spirited or that, and you harmony, and you see what those volunteers gave you. That was the gift to you and your children and your grandchildren, that you'd be sovereign, and that the four elements, earth, air, fire and water, of the sovereign Republic of Ireland, that's yours.
But really, the people have
and make
to
the best
accept it,
use of
Billy.
that.
I mean, the most important thing, I mean, what I keep saying to people is, say, look, see if you read the proclamation, do you accept it? They argue, and I say, look, it's not up to whether Enda Kenny accepts it. Do you accept it? You have to accept it first into your life. Those concepts, those principles, do you understand them? Are you aware of what they mean? Do you accept them? That's the first thing that everybody has to do. And it's only then can you move forward with an educated mind.
And Vincent, I think the important thing is Sinn Féin should come together, all those splits of Sinn Féin. I mean, what's they fighting about? Nothing. Looking for what's ahead. And look at what's there. They can achieve that. A 32-county sovereignty movement, and for the good of all the citizens. That's all. Even although the unionist people that said it will be invited, sure, they are part of it. The unionist people are sovereign people here. Absolutely. But in England, they're only subjects to the crown. Yeah. And I always point that out. And that Arlene Foster, I hope she comes on the 21st. She'd be more than welcome to come to the Mansion House. And I'm sad that everybody can't go, because I think it is very sad. But what can I do? I can't. I don't.
Well, this is it. I mean, people have tried to criticise you in the past, and I say, well, what do you want them to do? He's one man.
Anyway. Yeah. Oh, 251 years. But at least, look, Vincent, with you and Harry and Christine and all the rest, John is a wonderful secretary. The work he puts into it, I don't know how.
And again, well, I'm going to say something, Billy. I mean, the amount of people on the radio side here who have a tremendous admiration for both you and what you're doing and everybody else involved.
I don't count. It's the people are sovereign.
Well, what counts is your dedication
and
to
the organisation. It's the organisation. That's all we're trying to do, to keep that organisation alive. And we've done it for what? And that's what we do, right? Absolutely. And that's it. And at the end of the day, as long as we can do that and hand it over to your children and your grandchildren, that they can walk through life.
And look, and I'm going to say something else. Even if we can't achieve it in our lifetime, even if we can't achieve it, Billy, I mean, I'm saying, shouldn't we at least pass these ideals and notions to our children that one day they may achieve it?
Yes, that's what it should be. It's always looking forward. We're going forward. And we have made great achievements in others. And you talk about politicians and that, and it isn't an easy life. It isn't an easy life for anybody, or anybody rearing a family. It isn't an easy life. I don't know, but you know all about it.
I tell you, and
the sacrifices you have to make.
As my grandmother always said to me, Billy, hard work's not easy, and dry bread's not greasy.
Yeah, Vincent. But it is, and and I think it does for the few people we have, and they're so dedicated. To it, it is wonderful to see it, and look, we didn't leave it die. Isn't that the main thing?
That's what I'm saying. You see, at the end of the day, it's just an idea. It's just an idea, and I think it's a good idea. So we should maintain it.
Yeah, and coming them on the Feeney,
absolutely,
the misfortunes, what they suffered, for us, and I think people are beginning to see it. You see the other side of it. I know we went in a bit of a...
Well, you see, I think everybody should be relieved in one sense, Billy. That everybody should be relieved, thinking, you mean there's a peaceful way forward that will benefit everybody? Yeah, I think that it's something that should be celebrated.
We abhor violence, we abhor corruption, we abhor propaganda, lies and deception.
Nobody wants to see another man or woman hurt or
harmed. We want accountability. We want Enda Kenny to stand up and say he's only a provisional government since the 6th of December 1921. And that's a fact. And until he says that, we're never going to get any place, because he's in denial of the facts. And if you're in denial of the facts, he can't keep lying to Europe and to America, and because there's so many countries in Europe, and they're going to start questioning, why is Ireland getting all these grants and this wealth and this and that, and they don't get it, and they'll be questioning us, and they'll have to answer that question. Yeah. I mean, what's Cameron going to do? I mean, where's the whole reason that Ireland is so important to Britain is the food and the water and the fish and all that food that we have. They depend on it. Where are they going to get it from? Yeah. And there's no use going to
And look,
war
and
without-
we live in an abundant island, Billy, and of course we're all willing
There
to
is
share
plenty
our
for
abundance.
everybody. There's
I mean,
plenty for your needs, but there's none for the greed.
yeah, but I mean, look,
Yeah.
I've
We
often
don't
said,
want to be at war with Britain. We want
No.
to be on with, you know, they're fine people, the British people.
absolutely.
But the political situation and the way they've treated us since Chris Fogarty's Holocaust. Are you going to put that program up on your website?
Which one?
The one we're doing tonight?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
Because Chris Fogarty, although I wasn't speaking to him because I didn't know what was going on, as you know, you just surprised me at the last moment that we were going to talk tonight. And I haven't anything prepared for you.
Well, I
either.
believe you're coming on with Ray Hall soon, aren't you?
I spoke to Ray. Ray said, would I come on? I said, I will, of course.
Excellent.
And
Wonderful.
anyone else who wants me to come on and talk. But I look, it'll be only a repeat of what I'm saying to you. I'm sorry I keep repeating myself. Sovereignty, sovereignty. Harp.
Well, look, I mean, I think, in fairness, I mean, Ray Hall, he's a great man. He's a head full of questions too. He may ask you a different question that I haven't asked you. So,
Yeah, well, there
the
you
more
are.
the
If
merrier.
I can answer them, I'll answer them for him. You know,
Absolutely.
there's no mystery about any of this. This is the most simplest, you know, and it would be great. And it's especially in the year, and it would be wonderful. I'd love to see Sinn Féin, and I've said it to Jerry Adams, the door is open, you know, and to all
Good.
the other factions of Sinn Féin, come in under the sovereign constitution and the proclamation and the tricolour flag. That's what's left. I mean, don't be fighting amongst themselves. You get no place. And, you know, somebody walking off being smart with the assets of the state. The assets are belong to the citizens.
That's right.
And they belong to your children. And they're
Because
guaranteed.
if they don't belong to us, who the hell could they belong to? You know.
But anyway, listen, I've enjoyed being on talking to you, as I always do. And we do, we go from A to...
Sure. We go
Z.
from A to sovereignty, Billy.
Huh?
A to sovereignty.
Yeah, well, if you look at all... But there's one thing that I really did enjoy, and I'll say it again, is, you know, RTE, and you know they don't like me, they hate me, and I asked about the history program. That's one thing that on Easter Monday, Dublin City Council have given out the contract. Do you remember everybody dressed up in pantomime?
Yeah.
On Easter Monday, and they've given out the contract. At least they put it out for tender, the contract, I should
Okay.
say, because there's Holligan
Right.
that did it last year and was so successful. And RT, and they refused to talk to us. And as you know, those two little girls reading the proclamation, they come up and start singing beside them when they were reading the proclamation. That was really shocking.
Yeah. And I
But
take it the
I
plaque,
said to them,
the plaque on
important thing-
Lombard Street, Billy. The plaque on Lombard Street, that's still there, yes?
Oh yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Christina goes down and she cleans that all the time. And Andrew, and we must wish Andrew a very happy New Year and for polishing that and doing it. I have that out at the IRB's office is out, as you know, I put that up. I'm waiting for the electrician for the last year to just plug it in, but he hasn't done it. But anyway, on Easter Monday, the Dublin City Council have given out, they put out for tender a contract. You remember everybody dressed up and RT, and because that's our day, we shared our day with them. But you'd think that they would come together, and I believe that the provincial government want to go up and to Arbor Hill, where our members are buried. And as you know, Michael Biggs, he spent 4.5 years carving those proclamations in Irish and English. And everybody, and you know, they still won't put up the Sovereign Trinity over it. And as you know, the Sovereign Trinity over the forecourts, that's not properly aligned. They have the harp first, but they should have the Sovereign Seal first, because it's the rays of the sun that grows all your biomass. And the harp, and the harp is the moonbeams, which controls all the cycles of life and all the tides. And you can see them when you see it put up to life. We did it here when you were here. And we haven't even been consulted about Easter Monday. Isn't that awful? And we're hoping that, and I said to Holland, if you get the contract, and they said it was a wonderful day, and I said it was a wonderful day, it was a beautiful, sunny day. But what we wanted was the three most important things: to read the proclamation that was read there in 1916 by Padre Pierce, and to raise the tricolour flag that was raised by the Irish and Fenian Republican Brotherhood that was never captured and taken down by Diarmaid Lynch, and to refer what you've read there to the Sovereign Constitution. You know, Bulmer Hobson and all that. And and in those programs of that RT are showing, but you see, they're only showing it to a very limited people, because most people don't have, RT 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, which is news now, and is on that for the last, I don't know how long. But John told me, our great secretary, John, I must really congratulate John, who worked so hard that he has downloaded all those, and you can get them. I presume, as you know, I've never seen Billy McGuire. I've seen a little bit that Harry showed me, and you showed me that time. But after that, I hadn't seen anything.
Oh, it's very posh now, Billy.
And I heard that, because a lot of people ring me up, and I get calls from all over the world. I get people coming in here from we never knew about harmony, we never knew about sovereignty, we never knew how important sovereignty is. I said, sure, without sovereignty, you're only a slave. That's what makes us different from, and all our animals and birds, they're all sovereign. It's all life and giving, and, all your being, and how you do things, and how you live your life, and how you create things. And, that's what sovereignty is. And it's a wonderful concept,
absolutely,
which mankind has. That's the covenant gift.
Well,
listen, I better leave you in peace.
No problem.
This hour has gone on and on.
That was a short hour, Billy.
When we get chatting on harps, I think you can close up the shop.
Exactly.
So I hope I haven't stayed on too long.
No. Thoroughly enjoyed it, as always.
And we'll have another chat during the lots of events coming up, and that we're not invited to any. And it's awful to think that you're not wanted, and the Irish Republican Brotherhood, the Fenian Brotherhood, are not wanted by, and they're doing the same thing to our people, the same attitude, and I don't like that. They should be survivors anyway. Listen, I'll say good night to all your listeners, and thank you for putting up with me.
And just one last thing, Billy, before you go, if somebody actually wants to have a direct conversation with you, are you okay with them?
I'm always available to our citizens, and that's what we do. And I've had so many people calling in out here, asking this, have people gone. And as you know, going to the courts, I have given them the sovereign constitution, I've witnessed there, and I've said to them, because when you go into court, you must do it properly. McGuire now is a great person, and he's helped so many people. And the sovereign constitution, and you write to the court clerk and you tell him you want your case heard under the sovereign constitution, as is your right, and I witnessed that for him, and he writes out what he wants, because you're the sovereign now, remember, and you do it, and he will then inform the judge. He will have to show his license that he has, and the judge will have to show his license, and he'll have to hear the case under the sovereign constitution. And then he's in contempt of court, not you, because if you go in without doing that, they will have you for contempt of court by going in there. They say they have a contract with you with the judge, which they don't.
So they say.
But
they try to.
Common law, they assume they have. It's crooked. But under the sovereign constitution, you're the sovereign going in.
Absolutely.
And the judge. I mean, this is what we're talking about, the Oaked and the Heron courts and the Key Barracks, and we've talked about, and you'll be delighted to know that probably next week or that way, you might read out that letter that I've written. I won't say any more about it now.
Yeah.
And those courts are to restrict. It's like the Magna Carta and that. They restrict the authority of the courts and of the judges. Because you're the sovereign, and that's what it's all about. It's like America. So the Magna Carta is what they get their law from. Which is English law, but they don't have. You ask Americans, where did you get your sovereignty from? They don't know. They're confused. They will say, the Constitution. You don't get it from the Constitution. No. You get sovereignty from God, and that's the covenant between God and man. That's where the Hebrew people.
And you do have it, and it's up to people to realise it and to activate it themselves, even if they have nothing to do with Billy McGuire, if they have nothing to do with the IRB, nothing to do with anything. It's even up to the people themselves. I mean, I've said this many a time, Billy. If you feel it and you understand it, put it in place, folks. As Billy said, it's as simple as planting some spuds. It's as simple as planting a fruit tree. It's as simple as getting your water clean.
Same thing. Yeah. It's so simple. Look, when every child in the world is born, they can understand that.
Yeah.
I better go. There's a buzzing coming in the line. What's that?
I don't know. God knows.
It's probably Heather Humphreys or Ed Kenny.
Probably.
They're going to turn up on the 21st. But
We'll
isn't
see.
it awful to snub those volunteers in Citizens Army?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, look, as I say, Billy, I mean, I'm trying to focus on the positivity and the good things that may come out of it. So I think that's where we should leave it for tonight.
Piles of good things for our people.
We'll go for that.
Piles and piles and piles.
Let's have some good news for a change, folks.
Yes.
Exactly.
And let's do things properly. If you do things right, and if you make something, and you create it, and it's good, isn't it lovely to have it? And you walk away, you're contented. But all that are lies and deception and propaganda. And I mean, every day we talk about RTE. You know, they keep Sinn Féin. Why did they come out and say Sinn Féin is the political wing of the Irish Republican Brotherhood? And they founded the sovereign government and under the mandate of the 32 county election. And we want a sovereign government. And that's what we want. And we want to run things as in the proclamation of the sovereign constitution. You know?
Exactly.
Listen, this is buzzing. I don't know what's wrong.
No problem. Give it a smack off. Give it a crack off the wall.
But anyway, I'll say good night to you, and I'll say good night to all your
Thanks very much,
and
Billy.
I wish them all a very happy New Year and a happy 2016, and hopefully that people will see sense, especially all those members of Sinn Féin who are only fighting with themselves. If they only saw the reality of the proclamation and the sovereign constitution for themselves, and the good it'll do themselves and their children, and getting together and put away those all. I mean, those differences they have. I don't know where they even think of these things. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see it?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, I think, in fact, I think everybody in the world always celebrates peace. Everybody likes to see peace happening around them.
They do, of course.
So
they do, of course.
Hopefully more.
And I
of it
bet
will
you
happen.
everybody wants to see us with a sovereign government and get rid. I mean, Michael Collins, he said that the famous steps. 2 years, he said that provisional government was only for 2 years. On the 6th of December, 1921.
Yeah.
2 years, he said, we'll have our sovereign government back.
Yeah.
And as you know, Mary McSweeney took that sovereign constitution.
We're a little bit over 2 years at the moment.
What?
I think we're a little bit over 2 years.
It is because the assets have been taken.
Yeah.
I better leave you in peace and say
Thanks,
good
Billy.
night.
And your phone is
Night,
ringing again.
Vincent, and a great New Year.
You too. Good night, guys. And as always, that was the wonderful Billy McGuire, folks. And I'm going to give out Billy's number. Billy has said I can give out his number, so I'm going to give it out to you here. If you want to ring Billy McGuire directly, and if you want to ask him anything at all, if you're not satisfied with maybe I didn't get to ask a question you typed, like I couldn't see the chat box earlier on, folks. The bloody site is driving me nuts. Hopefully Ning will have it sorted out by tomorrow. But again, I will say that, I see some comments now, and some people are happy, some people are unhappy, and that's fair enough. I can understand that. But what I'd say to you is, look, what are we to do? There's an ancient history, there's a modern history, and there's a very near history from what happened yesterday, the day before, weeks, months, years. You can go forwards and backwards as much as you like. Sooner or later, if there's been trouble or feuds even in your own family, sooner or later, as I say, let's say a family had two brothers had a row in a family 50 years ago, and it's caused nothing but grief in the family ever since. Can't you imagine, 50 years later, eventually when those two brothers come together and make peace, wouldn't the whole family celebrate and think, well, that's brilliant? That's the way I see this. I see that, if we can spread and increase peace, awareness and harmony and friendship and good things and abundance with one another, why not do it? Maybe I might have to swallow something. Maybe you might have to take on board something and just, okay, well, I'm not going to say that to him anymore, and he's not going to say it to me, and even if we don't get on, well, we'll just agree to leave each other alone, perhaps, for the sake of peace and harmony. For the sake of peace and harmony, not for the sake of just to go along to get along, because that's not right. I mean, I know people have quite strong opinions on this, and I appreciate those opinions. I do, and I understand them. I mean, I never knew anything about Billy McGuire, any of this stuff, until from that other website that the connection came through Harry from Me to People. I didn't know anything about Billy McGuire. I didn't even really understand the word sovereignty back then, folks. I only know about this since then. And as I investigated it and researched it and tried to work out what it was all about, it wasn't easy. But I didn't have, I didn't come from a family who looked into any of this stuff. Really, my family, they didn't really do politics. Um, and I was never reared in that vein. I'm being honest with you here, folks. I didn't understand the situation up the north of Ireland when I was young. I didn't have a clue. I knew there was issues and I knew there was problems, but I didn't really know what they were. Because down here, and it wasn't my fault as such, because most people that I was educated with, they didn't know either. Because quite frankly, we weren't told. We weren't told. We looked outside our door and it was, as far as we were concerned, well, everything looked okay. It wasn't okay, but I didn't know that then. But I look there now, and I think, okay, at least now I know what's wrong, because I've taken the time to go and identify, well, what exactly is wrong. From what I can tell, the biggest thing that's wrong is that the whole of, I'm going to use a term as a blanket term, if you will, the whole of Christendom, right? Every Christian, be they whatever denomination, because I don't know how many Christian denominations are, but the whole of Christendom, apparently, is operating with usury in a monetary system when the founder of Christendom said, don't do that, and got very angry. And we all know about the story. We've all heard the story. We've all read the story. We've read it in the Bible. We've been taught about it in religion classes and whatnot down through the years. As I say, regardless as to what denomination you're from, everybody's been taught about it. And yet, we're all doing it. Why are we all doing that? And why don't we investigate, why was that in the Bible? Why was that in Scripture? And that was the only instance that the man got angry. It was the only instance. And I think the reason is obvious. Because if you have usury in your monetary system, it's the path to certain destruction. It's absolutely the path to certain destruction. The only way out of it is to sacrifice what you believed were your natural resources, and they run out sooner or later. After a couple of generations, they're gone. Well, then what have you got? Nothing. You don't own the roof over your head. You'd have to rent the shirt on your back. Okay? And I just don't think I don't see the reason that mankind has to live like that. I don't see the reason. I mean, look at this wonderful planet we're on. Look at it. Isn't it incredible? It's incredible. Look at some of David Attenborough's Life on Earth or Planet Earth videos. It's the incredible complexity of life and its abilities and its myriad of forms and shapes and stuff. We know almost nothing about what's going on this wonderful planet that we're living on. We know all we have to do is get some seeds from foods we like to eat, pop them in the ground in the right conditions. Up comes, for all intents and purposes, free food. We can use timber from trees to build our houses. I mean, with modern technologies, you can build a timber frame house now, folks. That's good enough to be, 100-year lifespan of that house. No problem. We have these technologies. There's just no. What's the need to have this ridiculous notion in the monetary system? I just don't. It doesn't cause us to strive. Mankind builds and constructs anyway. That's what men do. Men, if let's say, for example, you're living in an abundant society, mankind will still go and say, see that old fallen tree over there? You'll get a couple of boys together and they say, I think we're gonna let's go over there and see if we can't. Maybe we'll build a bridge over that river out of it. We're not lazy. Mankind is not lazy. Humanity is not lazy. I'm going to tell you, like most men, I enjoy working. I loved it. I loved my working life. Physically, what I actually did physically, it was the best thing I think I ever did in my life, in many regards. I mean, other than being a father. I'd be killed if I didn't say that. But I mean, I used to take absolute pleasure in taking a jack plane or a number 7 plane or whatever and honing that blade to a mirror finish, scary sharp we used to call it. And the pleasure I got out of, planing down a really nice piece of exotic hardwood till it was just perfectly smooth. You get a better finish planing a piece of wood, folks, with a manual plane than you will with the finest sandpaper. A planed surface, a proper carpenter who really knows his trade, he can plane a piece of wood smoother than any sandpaper will ever sand it. That's how good it is. How are we doing time-wise? 10 minutes to go. Okay. Well, maybe I'll talk about that. I'm going to change things up a little bit in the new year from the way I've been doing things. I've told some of you this in the past. I'm trying to put together a website for myself because all my podcasts are all over the flipping place, and I want to try and do some type of a structured website just for me. I've helped so many people build websites down through the years. God knows how many I've built for people, and most of the other hosts on here have their own websites. I'm here the longest, and I don't have one. So I thought, you know what? It's time for me to have my own website. So I'm going to do it. It's going to take me a bit of time. And hopefully I'll improve what's going on here and everything else. But, as I say, I want to increase our audience. I want to increase the audience that we have here tonight. I want to increase, as best I can, awareness. As best I can, the sense of, what do I want people to be aware of? It's quite simple. I just want people to be aware of that there is a way to live together in peace and harmony, where you don't have to hate me, I don't have to hate you, we don't have to work against each other, I don't have to shovel up my dog shit and throw it over your garden wall. We can live in harmony. I don't have to do things that will cause noxious gases and poisonous fluids to be released into the environment. We have technologies that we can use to make sure that anything we do, any production we get up to, that it will be okay, that the earth can handle it. We have all these ways of filtering water through reed beds and all that, our wastewater, so that we're not doing harm to nature. We can restore the earth into, I'm going to say it, like the Garden of Eden, folks. We can do that. We don't have to build with concrete. There's many other materials that are just as efficient. Sorry, Billy's number. Sorry, pardon me. I meant to give that out. The number is 069. Here, I'll type it into the chat box. 069 633. Bloody hell, is that right? Sorry, just give me a sec. Okay. I'm getting old, folks. There we go. There's the number for Billy. Oh no, hang on. 65 double. Yeah, that's it without the hashtag at the bottom. Sorry, I didn't mean to put that hashtag in there. In fact, let me just copy that again, and I'll do it again. And that's Billy's home number, folks. As I say, don't ring him in unreasonable hours, but during the day, if you ring him, he'll take your call. He'll talk to you. That's what I did. I just started ringing Billy and talking to him. I get on very well with Billy. I consider myself and Billy friends. We're very friendly with each other now. It's not just the way we have conversations on the radio. I was fascinated by Billy, the information and knowledge he had to share. I went down, myself and Andrew went down to visit Billy, and it's Billy lives in a little piece of heaven, folks. He had all the apple trees and all the different species of apple. He had an old aviary there, and he has his vegetables planted, and even his horse. I was on that horse. That was a monster of a horse, that thing. But he kept it real simple, though. He said, look, there's the sun, there's the earth, here's how your crops grow, here's how you get good water, here's what you should have growing around you. You should have these plants, you should have food, plants that actually provide food. I look in my front garden, folks. My front garden's a disgrace. I've all these exotic plants in my front garden. Some people think, oh, vineyard garden is lovely. But you can't eat anything from any of them. In fact, some of the bloody plants in my garden, I've done some research, the feckin' things are poisonous. You'd be in a bad way if you ate something. These things are grown all over Ireland. Loads of people have poisonous plants in their gardens. We really shouldn't. I want rid of them all. I want to change it. I still think we can have very pleasant looking plants in our gardens, front and rear, that actually produce food. You know, apple trees are lovely, cherries are lovely, plums, all of these types of things. We can have them. You know, even like the potato plant is not an unattractive plant. You don't have to plant like rows and rows and rows of them. You can have them here and there. And you still get a few spuds. I don't know, no biggie. How am I doing time-wise? I'm out of time. So I'm going to say goodnight and God bless and talk to you all again soon. It's always a pleasure. Hope to have me website up and running very soon, folks. And talk to you all again. Good night. God bless.